2nd and 3. He's back to throw, eyeing the right, steps up into the pocket, over the middle. He's got the man streaking into the end zone. Bowers at the 10, reaches the 5. Touchdown! He is back, baby! Brock Bowers, 27 yards over the middle. And the Raiders, with 1:52 to go, regain the lead.
It's Unnecessary Roughness. Presented by Meineke, doing car care right. Here's your boy Q.
Hope to hear a lot of that in 2026, right? Hope to hear a lot of Jason Horowitz of Voice of the Silver and Black calling Brock Bowers touchdowns. Would love to hear a lot of that. Would love to hear Jason Horowitz of Voice of the Silver and Black calling a lot of Asher Genty touchdowns, Trey Tucker touchdowns. How about some, I don't know, Speedy Naylor touchdowns, Jack Best touchdowns, more touchdowns, less field goals. No disrespect to the field goal kicking unit, but you want to see touchdowns. You don't want to settle for field goals. But that's something to get excited about. Everything and every single day that goes by, and we start thinking about Raider football, and we start getting closer and closer to the beginning of training camp. I think it's a little bit more energy and a little bit more juice gets just put immediately into the veins of Raider Nation. Funny, believe it or not, had a call on the podcast that we had on the show today, and Ari will appreciate this as well. And my guy said that his fan brain was kicking in. He said, man, I want to temper my expectations. I don't want to get too high. I don't want to sit there and say, oh, this is going to be the year. It's going to be a quick turnaround. He said, man, every day that goes by, my fan brain starts to kick in. And when that fan brain starts to kick in, that's the one. It's like, well, you know what? If this happens and this happens and you know, the team is a little bit better than a lot of people expect, and, well, why not? And Ari, it's so funny because as much as we do our very best to remain professional around here on not only Raider Nation Radio 920 on Unnecessary Roughness, but even on the podcast, we try to maintain our professionalism. It's really hard when you hear everything, especially from people on the outside that are saying, hey, man, I kind of like what the Raiders have done, think they're on to something, think they have a nice coaching staff, think the work that they did in the offseason during, free agency and the draft, I think they did really well there. It's hard not to get excited about what's going to be coming up and starting, obviously, at the end of the month when it comes to training camp.
Absolutely. It's a struggle, an everyday struggle, I feel. I agree with you on that. And it's there's a lot to – I'm sorry, but there's a lot to be positive about. So, yes, we will maintain for what is it now? 9 more Sundays. We'll just be totally just mellow here and, not get too high or too low.
Hey, look.
It'll be fine.
Like I said on the podcast, let your fan brain take over, man. Let your fan brain take over. Myself and Ari will try to maintain our professionalism. But this is fun, man. It really is. And I'm just glad about the whole lead up to what we've got cooking here on Raider Nation Radio 920 and Unnecessary Roughness, obviously the upcoming season. And we've got we've got training camp coming up around the corner at the end of the month, and we'll go from there. So excited about everything that we've got cooking, including the show that we have lined up for you this afternoon. A couple good guests that we have coming up on Unnecessary Roughness, Raider Nation Radio 920 at 2:30. Paul Gutierrez, Raiders.com. He's our good guest. Ari, what is going on, man? I see you flipping out there in the studio. What's going on?
I'm looking for my fan brain. It fell out. No, I'm just kidding. No, just some computer stuff. We are all good because Awesome Doug is fixing it as we speak. But I'll just let you in. There's some stuff.
Yeah, please let me in because this is what I'm seeing. Let me go ahead and let me peel back the curtain.
Describe this on radio.
I'm sitting here talking, and I'm looking at Ari in studio, and he's in the Lotus Broadcasting Studio. I'm in Studio Q, and all of a sudden he's like, whoa, he takes a step back. He's got his hands up. His eyes are big looking at the screen in front of him. And so I'm thinking to myself, I'm looking over at my unit here in the studio like, okay, did we just get disconnected? I know it's hot outside. Am I not on air? So then I'm talking. I'm proceeding carefully. And then I see Ari pick up his phone. I'm like, oh, damn, something's going on. And then all of a sudden it's good, and then it's not good. It's like, man, what is going on? Are we good?
Man, yeah, we're great, actually. And I know you're big on body language, so sorry to do that to you because I didn't leave much of a mystery there. Yeah, no, just to take you back, the wonderful Douglas is back there doing some virtual, things are changing right in front of me because he's in front of a computer doing it. And so sometimes it's just like, wait, what? And then I was doing stuff to fix it as well, and I don't want to trample over him. So that's me kind of going back and forth, kind of hesitating. Oh, and then my eyes got big because he brilliantly just fixed everything with one stroke. So there you go.
All I know is that from looking through this video that we have into the studio and watching your, again, body language,
my calm
it
presence.
looked like you were on an episode of Maury Povich and you just found out you weren't the father.
Are you sure?
I mean, you had that look like, wait, what?
Yeah, that is
I'm
exactly. Wait, I'm okay? Yeah. That's what was going on.
That's what it looked like. You just found out you weren't the father.
That's right. Yes, actually. But I thought seconds ago I was, but then I got the final word, and I'm
there
good.
You go.
So, yeah, just got to keep you on your toes. For sure.
We're good.
You asked yesterday if you were back in the, if we did it right, if we did the 3-hour show right. So, I'm just making sure we start off with a great foot today. Ooh,
That's awesome.
It's Tuesday.
So, there you go. So, Raider Nation, rest assured, Ari is not the father. So now we can move forward. He is not the father. We're good.
Hallelujah.
There you go. There you go. No worries there. No California Department of Child Support or none of that has to come into the conversation when it comes to Ari. He is good to go. Now, when it comes to the show and the guests that we have lined up, as I mentioned, our good friend Paul Gutierrez, Raiders.com, he'll join us, talk all things silver and black, and he'll give his thoughts. Obviously, he has plenty of family members that are big-time Raider fans, and he grew up, with the Raider family, and obviously grew up watching the Raiders go out there and dominate and win Super Bowls, and of course, he's been such a great soundtrack whenever we talk all things silver and black. How are the people around him? How are their fan brain going? How is their Raider fan brain at this stage of the game? Are they starting to feel that juice and energy and excitement as well, as many people, I believe, are? There's just a lot of positivity with this organization. And, I hate to go back to the Silver and Black Gala, but I will. When Mark Davis told me, and I know he's told others, we've won the offseason before. Now it's time to go make that translate and win in the regular season, and that's obviously going to be the job of Clint Kubiak. That's going to be the job of Robbie Leonard. That's going to be the job of Kirk Cousins, Fernando Mendoza, Aiden O'Connell, everybody in that building. They're going to have to come together and put a winning product out there on the field, but that's what we're all here for. That's what we're all excited about. So Paul Gutierrez, Raiders.com, he'll join us coming up at 2:30. Then the General joins us at 3:30, John McClain. Always love to have that conversation with him, and so funny. I always feel like we're going to go in one direction with John when he joins the show, and normally we end up going in his direction. Whatever direction that is, wherever he ends up leading us, it's always a great path. So I'm never going to object to it, but I haven't talked to John McClain in a couple weeks. Matter of fact, the first week that I was on vacation, all of a sudden I got a text from him, and I thought, okay, he's going to say something funny about, being in Hawaii or whatever. And he said, hey, man, you're not having me on the show today? And I looked at the time, and, of course, we're 3 hours in Hawaii. We're 3 hours behind Pacific time, so normally he joins at 3:30. It literally was 12:30 there in Hawaii when he texted me, and I was like, I'm in Hawaii, brother. I'm on vacation, so no, I thought Ari let you know. And I know Ari did, but John is always so, excited to come on the show that he just happened to forget. And he was like, oh, okay, well. And so then he started giving me some things, some don't do's while you're in Hawaii. And, of course, I had to take the advice of the great John McClain. So he'll join us coming up at 3:30. We'll hear from you throughout the course of the show as well at 702-365-9200. That's the text line and the phone line. We've got winning on the way. And I believe I got this right earlier today, Ari. So correct me if I'm wrong, and if I am, then my bad. Do we have Martin Lawrence tickets and Summer League tickets today?
No, they had them on this morning. They had Summer League tickets. So.
Oh, that's unacceptable.
But you know what? Yeah, but we do have Martin. But yeah, I can definitely promise you that. I'm going to promise. Well, we have some coming up soon.
Okay. Well, we got Martin tickets. That's
right?
Not a bad consolation prize. Summer League is great. Well, We'll take Martin tickets. So I was 1 for 2. That's all right. Hey, in baseball, I'm a Hall of Famer if I go 1 for 2. Right. So there you go. I'm batting 500. I'll take that. So just don't take me out the game when I'm on fire. Just if the Miami Marlins manager, don't take me out. I have to flush that that kind of performance. We can't have that around here. So okay. So we got some Martin Lawrence tickets on the way throughout the course of the show as well. So we're fired up, man. Excited about the show. Paul G at 2:30, John McClain at 3:30. Of course, we'll hear from you as we're already seeing on the text line at 702-365-9200. Real quick, I do want to remind you it is the summer of fun. Thanks to Terribles. We do appreciate them and their efforts. And each and every year we have multiple trips that we send you on, get you out of the Las Vegas heat and get you to some fantastic vacation. And really, we've been celebrating America 250 during the summer of fun. So we have the New York City trip going on right now. I gave you the word of the day yesterday as a little cheat code. Energize, energize, energize. Not energize, not energizer, but energize. So that is the word that you're looking for, energize. You text that in at right now, 702-365-9200. That immediately gets you in to win the trip to New York City. You don't have to take the trip. You can say, you know what, Q, I don't want to take the trip right now. I'll take the cash. Cash is $3,000. So it's good options to have. All you got to do is text the word energize right now, 702-365-9200. That'll get you in to win. Make sure you text that in before 5 o'clock and be safe while you're sending that text as well. So as you can tell, we're locked and loaded, man. Got a big show lined up for you. We're fired up. We got to hear from our guy E-Rob. Yesterday was important. Tomorrow's going to be important. Training camp's going to be really important. But today Today is important, and this is why.
Because every day matters. The older you get, the more you start appreciating day in and day out. Because you know I can't get that time back. I'm in the business of saying, not if I would have did this or if I would have did that. I'm in the business of now.
I'm in the business of now as well. So right now, let's jump into the opening drive.
The opening drive of Unnecessary Roughness on RaiderNation Radio 920 AM is brought to you by Paul Patta Law. It's not about the injury, it's about the recovery.
So already got some text messages rolling in, and we do appreciate that at 702-365-9200. So we'll get to Sir Whiskey Ray, we'll get to our guy Dave, we'll get to Just Win Will as well. But I did want to go ahead and throw out the topic. And it's so funny, I talk about different topics all the time and how they come to me organically. And usually it's a conversation that I'm having or a conversation that I'm listening to. Sometimes I could be listening to maybe the Morning Tailgate or JT, and something will pop in my head, or maybe even another network. But me doing multiple shows on multiple networks, a lot of times there's conversations that we'll have on game night on ESPN or just up and down the network, and I'll think, man, how can I turn that into a Raiders conversation? So I mentioned it on the show yesterday that our Rankem series, right? Kirk Morrison joined the show on Monday. He said, this is the time of year where there's a bunch of rankings, top 10s, top 5s. We're going to do this, that, and the other, and he's not wrong. And our Rankem series started yesterday on ESPN Radio, where we were talking about the top 5 storylines that we'll be paying attention to in the NFL season. So we rattled off our top 5. Mine were, can the Chiefs bounce back to the top of the AFC West? How will another offensive coordinator affect Jalen Hurts and the Eagles? Will the Rams host Super Bowl 61 like they did in 2022? When will Fernando Mendoza get into action? And what new head coach will have the most success between Ravens' Jesse Minter and Bills' Joe Brady? So that was 5-1 for me for my top 5 storylines. And I could have said Fernando Mendoza get into action, be number 1. But I was like, you know what? I won't go all the way Raiders. You know, I do Raiders all day long, so I won't go all the way Raiders here on game night. But I had them there at number 2. And I think that even if you're not a Raider fan, that's got to be a storyline, right? That's going to be an NFL storyline in general. Just when is Fernando Mendoza, the number 1 overall pick, when is he finally going to get into action? Is he going to get into action week 1? Is it going to be week 4? Is it going to be week 14? Like, we don't know. Right? Only time will tell. But we know at some point he's going to get into action. I feel very confident that we'll see 15. We'll see Fernando Mendoza out there sooner rather than later. But taking that conversation and trying to make it Raider-related, I came up with what are your 3 biggest storylines that you'll be following the closest when it comes to the Raiders this season. It doesn't necessarily have to be just in training camp. It doesn't have to be just necessarily right now. But just throughout the course of the year, as this team is trying to build a winning organization and a winning culture and something sustainable and getting back to just win, baby, and commitment to excellence and what that really means. So I'm not going to hit you with 5. And I think that there's a ton of them out there, to be honest with you. I sat at my desk at the radio station this morning, and, I came up with 3 like that. So I thought, you know what, I'm not going to get greedy. I'm not going to take 5 or 7 and then, not leave any for anyone else. I'm just going to go ahead and roll with 3. And it's, like I said before, I think the when will Fernando Mendoza get into action, I think that's a cheat code. That's an easy number 1 storyline for the Raiders. That has to be. If that's not a storyline for you, I wouldn't know why. Right? It's the number 1 overall pick. That's the franchise quarterback. That's the guy that, is tasked with taking this team, not only from where it's at right now, but well into the future and hopefully hoisting some Lombardis, right? Just like what he was able to do and tasked to do when he was at Indiana, right? Take them to the playoffs, get to the national championship game, and win the bad boy. And that's what he did. And along the way, he picked up some hardware, winning the Heisman Trophy as well. So I think that that's easy. That should probably be on everyone's, list as far as, storylines that they'll be following when it comes to the Raiders. So if you don't put Fernando Mendoza when he gets into action, I won't be mad at you because I get it. That's something that's a no-brainer. But for me, I did put him in that list. For me, the 3, how quickly can this offensive line come together? Who are going to be your starting 5? That was number 3. We like to do this 3-2-1. Number 2, what does the competition in the secondary look like? That was number 2 for me. And then number 1, again, when do the Raiders pass the sticks on to Fernando Mendoza? When does he earn that time on the grass? Is it going to be early? Is it not? Whenever it is, the good thing is I know that he's going to get on the grass, right? It's not like who's going to be the franchise quarterback for the Raiders. I don't have those questions. Other teams have those questions. Who's going to be the franchise quarterback? The only question that we have when it comes to the Raiders and the franchise quarterback is not if they have one. It's just when is that guy going to play? That's the only question. So those are the 3 for me that I came up with. And trust and believe there's about 5 or 6 more that I could have added to the list. But how quickly can the offensive line come together? Who's the starting 5? What does the competition in the secondary look like? And when do the Raiders pass the sticks on to Fernando Mendoza? And the funny thing about number 2, what does the competition in the secondary look like? I heard Vinny Bonsignore and our guy Connor on the morning tailgate this morning, and they were talking with Jesse Merrick, who does a fantastic job covering the Raiders, has a great, he's his own outlet that he created, and it's really getting a lot of traction right now. And Jesse is one of the best in the business, so definitely appreciate any time I can hear him on the airwaves, whether it's on this show, JT show, or the morning tailgate. But Vinny asked that question about the secondary and how intrigued Jesse Merrick is by, that potential competition in that secondary. We'll get to the sound of that in a little while. So that was again this morning. They had that on the morning tailgate, which is fine. We'll get to it at a later date. Don't worry about it, Ari. It's not a big deal. So we will hear from you. 702-365-9200. What are your three storylines that will be following the closest for the Raiders this season? So let us know your thoughts on that. And going to the text line real quick, 702-365-9200. Sir Whiskey Ray, hit us up right away. Gentlemen, welcome back. Happy Tuesday. I'm officially back and sobered up from both Mexico and USA defeats. Let's talk about momentum. How about Messi and Argentina's great comeback earlier today? I'm still in awe. Can't wait for these remaining matches. Just wanted to chime in and welcome both of you gentlemen back. As all of Raider Nation miss you guys. Hope you had a great vacation. Let's go. Time for Raider football. Cheers to Whiskey Ray. P.S. How is Ari feeling after yesterday's Twin Peaks visitors? LOL. Well, unfortunately, they never made it in. So Ari's doing okay. He thought he had the headphones set up, had the studio all to himself. He thought he was in prime position to be able to talk to the ladies about the World Cup, and maybe they knew that it was going to be a terrible performance by the USA, and so they decided that they were going to be a no-show. But, we didn't hear nothing about it. I can tell you Twin Peaks is a great place to go watch all the action. They got TVs everywhere, really good food. They got all the sights and sounds that you could want, but they just weren't in the studio on Monday, which is okay. Right, that happens. So if you're in and around the area and you want a place to go check out the action, Twin Peaks is a really good one. But Sir Whiskey Ray, it's good to hear from you. And yeah, man, Argentina's comeback was incredible. We literally had people in the building. I had the game on my iPad in my office. And people kept walking by like, hey, man, are you paying attention to this Argentina? I was like, yes, right here. It's on. Oh, okay, cool. Our guy Connor, hey, man, Q, I think Messi's about to go home. That's when Argentina was down 2-0. And I was like, yeah, I don't know, man. The way we've seen this World Cup go so far, let's just watch it, see what happens. Not thinking that they were going to make some comeback like that. I thought, okay, it's probably going to be a wrap. But, you don't want to rule anybody out too quickly unless you're the USA team that, they never even showed up to the party. That's another conversation we'll get to later on in the show. But, then all of a sudden Argentina started making a run, and then Messi all of a sudden tied it up. And I was like, well, it's going to be something. So then walking around the building, there were so many people just reacting to it. Obviously, social media was blowing up as well. It was pretty crazy. So, that was a hell of a comeback. And, Mexico losing to England on Sunday night, that was an incredible match as well. Very surprising as far as I'm concerned, especially since, Mexico had a home game basically, and they don't never lose at that stadium. I think the last time they lost at that stadium was 2013, and so that was a big shock to me. But, hey, man. England went out there, and I saw former Raider offensive lineman Jermaine Illuminor. He was flexing his muscles on social media, feeling good about England. Of course, he's from England, and, that's the team and country that he's rooting for. And so I saw him, and Jermaine was always a good dude, man. I know he wasn't the best right tackle. I'll be the first to admit that. I think he'd be the first to admit that as well. But he was always a good dude. He was always one of those dudes that you talked with in the locker room after a game, and even when he had a bad game, he would tell you, it was on me. I did this. I did that. There was a game, I want to say it was the first game of the 2022 season. That's right when the Raiders had acquired Devontae Adams, and they were in L.A. It was the first game of the season against the Chargers, and I remember being there on the road, and Khalil Mack just ate up Jermaine Illuminor, ate him up. I mean, one, he was left on an island by himself. There was no help that Josh McDaniels gave him at all, but it just ate him up. And I remember being in the locker room afterwards, and no one really wanted to talk. Everyone was really upset about the way that, the game shook out. And Jermaine was holding court, and he was talking, and he was real upset. And I remember there was a bunch of expletives that were said, but it wasn't towards anybody but himself. And he's like, I saw this coming. I knew when he put his foot in this direction that this is what he was going to do, and I still fell for it. Like, he was so upset. And the second time they played him in the season, he did a lot better. And he was like, I wasn't gonna fall for all that again, right? Everything that he got me with the first time around wasn't gonna get me the second time around. And so it was, he was always a really good dude to talk to, and Anytime I see him at the Super Bowl, he's always great to catch up with as well. So big shout out to Jermaine Illuminor. But man, he was flexing his muscles on social media, that's for sure, on Sunday night. So thanks so much to Risky Ray for that. We do appreciate you. What else did we get? This one comes from Dave. Q, congratulations on your award. Much deserved. Raider Nation appreciates you. Look forward to an exciting year and future. Appreciate Q and Ari. Go Raiders. And that's kind of, again, going to the fan brain, right? It's like looking forward to an exciting year. Like everyone is anticipating an exciting year. It's hard not to. I don't blame you at all. And that's I'm hoping that there's a great, exciting year. I would love to come to the show every single day, everyone fired up. I know everyone's going to be fired up every day at training camp. Right, I guarantee that. I know how that feels. Right, as soon as training camp's over, man, going to make a beeline to the house and boom, be ready to roll. Like I'm super fired up about that. I just want it to translate into the regular season because, man, and look, I'm not expecting a 10, 11, 12-win season, but I'm expecting a very competitive season. I'm expecting a team that is not a easy out at all. I don't think that they're going to be that get-right game that we all dread. And we all talk about all the time, just don't be that get-right team. Don't be that get-right team. I don't expect any of that. And honestly, just like I said last night on ESPN when I said my number 5 storyline was, can the Chiefs bounce back atop the AFC West? And my answer was no, because I don't think they will. I think maybe they'll win 8 or 9 games. I don't know when Patrick Mahomes is going to come back. I know that they say that he's going to be back week 1. I'm not convinced of that. We'll see. I know ACLs are a little tricky. You could be healthy, but are you healthy between the ears? Are you confident to step up in the pocket? Are you confident to take off running? Like, that's all TBD when it comes to Mahomes. But I just don't believe that they got that Chiefs magic that they've had, right? I said it last year before the season. I said I thought they were going to regress and take a step back. Now, I would be lying to you if I said I thought they were going to win 6 games and Patrick Mahomes was going to tear his ACL. That nobody saw that coming. But I did say, and I know you can go back and check the tape, I said on this show, I think they're going to win about 9 games, right? Because they had won 15 the year before. And they won all those games by 1 scores and fluke plays and bouncing the ball off the upright. It goes through and, having a defensive pass interference penalty. They get another opportunity. Like, there was so many things that went right for them. It felt like the Raiders in 2021 where the ball just bounced the way that the Raiders needed it to go. And they went on that improbable run and made it to the playoffs. Now, I know they lost to Cincinnati in the wild card round, but it was one of those seasons for Cincinnati when they go and win, or for the Chiefs when they go and win 15 games. So I felt like they were going to regress. Thought 9. And then I thought, okay, Denver's going to probably be better. The Chargers, we'll see what they're going to be. To me, I'm interested in what Denver's going to do, right? How are they going to play this year? I'm interested in what the Chargers are going to look like, especially with Mike McDaniel as the offensive coordinator now. How is that going to play with Jim Harbaugh? I feel like that they're 2 different styles, even though the run game is going to be very important to Coach McDaniel, but they're more of a finesse team than they are a physically enforcing team, that Jim Harbaugh. So I just want to see how that dynamic plays out. But my point of the whole thing is I think the Raiders are going to win a couple games that people are going to not be expecting. And so they could easily win a game against Denver, or even 2. Win a game against the Chargers, or even 2. Win a game against the Chiefs, or even 2. And all of a sudden you're looking at a division like, well, what the hell just happened? Right? So I don't think it's going to be that cakewalk that the rest of the division thinks it's going to be, and that the Raiders are just little bruh, and little bruh is going to lay down and get beat like you used to beat your little brother when you went and played ball. Like you already knew, this game's over, right? This game's over before it gets started. That's not the case. I think the Raiders are going to surprise a team or 2 and probably win a game that we come back on Monday. I was like, damn, I didn't see that one coming. I didn't go into that one with a lot of confidence, but here you go. That's just what I think is going to happen, right? We talked about it. We talked about it for some years, just going into every game having a puncher's chance. I believe with the offensive weapons that they have, and the offensive mind, more importantly, that they have on the sideline in Clint Kubiak, they'll have a puncher's chance with everybody. Now, injuries, you have to play. That obviously plays a major role, right? I mean, there's other elements that are going to play a role as well. I mean, I can't just Nostradamus it and tell you how it's going to play out. I wish I could. I'd be a rich man if I could, but I can't. So, we all would be if we could do that, right? But, I mean, there's other elements, but just looking at the way that this team is structured right now and the way that their schedule lays out and the division that they're in, I think there's going to be a couple games that they win that you probably look up and think, oh, man, I wasn't expecting that one and nobody else was, and now all of a sudden, how does that affect what the division looks like? So I think that the race for the AFC West is going to be way tighter this year than most people expect. So that was, I guess, the whole point of me saying that. So there's that. Let's see. Just when Will said, congrats, Q, on the award. I didn't know what you were awarded for, but whatever it is, I know you earned it. That's funny. No, it was the Nevada Sports Broadcaster of the Year for 2025. And I say it all the time. I used to my joke in the building was I was always Susan Lucci. And if you know who Susan Lucci was, she was always nominated for awards, but she never won them. So I always said that I was Susan Lucci. I used to walk into my boss's office, Natalie. I used to walk into her office and say, Susan Lucci once again, and she would understand that reference immediately. I had that reference because my mom was a big soap opera watcher back in the day. So I just happened to know who Susan Lucci was, and I know that forever she went without winning an award, and I think she finally did. And so this past year when I got the call, it was so funny. I got the call from Dave, who runs the the whole association, and he said, "Hey, congratulations on your nomination." And I'm like, "All right, here we go again. Congratulations on being nominated, but you just came up a little bit short again." Like one year, Kevin Bollinger from Fox 5, he won when I was nominated, which is cool. Last year, Matt Neverett, he won, 2024, I should say. Matt Neverett won as the voice of UNLV, and UNLV had a fantastic season. I know the Golden Knights, their voices have won a couple times. On the print side of things, Ed Graney's won multiple times. Vinny Bonsignore's won multiple times. And so when I got the call, it was so funny. I was like, here we go. Here's another. Well, you just came up a little short, Q. He's like, hey, congratulations on your nomination. I was like, oh, thanks. Appreciate it. Yeah, you won this time. I was like, wait, what? So I was really shocked. So he's like, hey, man, we look forward to having you at the awards banquet. So I was like, yeah, man, I can't wait. That's going to be awesome, man. I'm going to go rent me a nice suit. I'm going to go, because your boy ain't got no suits. So I was like, I'm going to go rent me a suit. I'm going to look good. When is it? And then he told me the dates. Of course, I'm in Hawaii at that time, so I couldn't go to the award banquet. But he said, "Oh, don't worry about it. Enjoy your vacation. We'll send it to you to the house." So when I got back from vacation, I literally went to the mailbox and it was there. And so I put it out on social media yesterday. So it's pretty cool to get back from vacation and then all of a sudden see an award that you got for being a Sportscaster of the Year for the state of Nevada, which is dope. For me, I've been here just about 5 years, coming up July 15th, and I'm able to get nominated multiple times and win it once. So I don't think that's a bad little feather in the cap. So thank you, Just Win Will. Appreciate the kind words, and David, appreciate the kind words as well. 702-365-9200. Want to hear from you. What are your three biggest storylines that you'll be following the closest when it comes to the Silver and Black this season? Let us know your thoughts. We got Paul Gutierrez. He'll join us next here on RaiderNation Radio 920.
That was the opening drive of Unnecessary Roughness on RaiderNation Radio 920 AM. Brought to you by Paul Padala. It's not about the injury, it's about the recovery. Now back to Unnecessary Roughness with your boy Q. Presented by Meineke, doing car care right.
As we come in, we hear the Hall of Famer Eric Allen on Upon Further Review a couple weeks ago with our next guest, Paul Gutierrez from Raiders.com, Silver and Black Productions. And what he's talking about easily could be one of the storylines that we're throwing out there. And the question that we threw out there today, what are your three biggest storylines that you'll be following the closest for the Raiders this season? He's talking about the interior of the defensive line, talking about the free agents defensively that the Raiders have brought in. How is the interior defensive line, how is that going to complement those guys? How are those guys going to be space eaters, like Lincoln Kennedy always says? How is it going to keep everyone clean so Quay Walker and Nakobe Dean and others can come downhill? That easily could be a storyline to pay attention to when you're looking at this Raiders defense. It is Unnecessary Roughness here on RaiderNation Radio 920, the soothing sounds of the Hawaiian Islands. We come into the sound, so you know that Paul Gutierrez joins the show. And Paul, thanks so much. I feel like that was a welcome back cue from Hawaii with that sound right there.
It was, and I don't know if there's anybody on this continent, anyways, that would feel bad after just hearing those types of, those sounds. And I wanted to welcome you back. You got your plaque. Congratulations again on that. It's awesome, well deserved. But yeah, I figured, I told Ari, so let's welcome Ari back, or let's welcome Q back with some class, and it was either that or the Bobby Brady with the Taboo Tiki noise. But I'll stick with that, just because we want good stuff. We want good stuff.
Exactly.
We don't want bad. We don't want bad mojo.
Not at all. Not at all. And you're right. You can never be mad. You can never be upset when you hear those soothing sounds. You just know, you know what? It's all good, man. It's going to be all right? You feel like the brothers there on the island, right? You just feel like everything is going to be okay. Again, Paul Gutierrez is with us here, RaiderNation Radio 920. Let's say rough this. So you heard us coming in talking about storylines for the Raiders, and I feel like there's a ton of them and a ton of excitement as well. As I mentioned earlier, I had a guy on the podcast say his fan brain was starting to kick in. I know you have plenty of family members that are around you that are big-time Raider fans. They're at the games. They're fired up about it. Where's their fan brain at right now when it get closer and closer to the training camp start?
Yeah, it's definitely all about it. I was even at like a college graduation party up in the Bay Area this past weekend, and the only thing really anybody wanted to talk about was Fernando Mendoza. So their storyline number one, right, is the quarterback battle. Who's gonna be the guy? And I think right here, right now, if we were to have to put out some sort of a depth chart, Kirk Cousins is obviously the guy right here, right now. But like you mentioned earlier, I mean, when does the transition take place? And in talking with Kirk Morrison this offseason too, he had a good line, and I think we've talked about it too, where it's like, you know what, at this stage it almost makes more sense for Fernando to be QB3, because if you're QB2, you're only one snap away from going into a game. And when you look at Fernando, the moment he goes into a game, he's not coming out. Right. So it almost makes more sense to kind of slow play that at this point in time. So, that's not a shot at anybody. That's just kind of observing what it is right now. So long answer to your short question about what are my people around me talking about? It's all about quarterback. And right. I don't know if you can ever talk about the quarterback enough. And that's one piece of advice that was always given to me when I kind of made that transition going from being a baseball writer to football was, hey, you can never write about the quarterback enough. You can never write about the running back enough, the star receiver, the star pass rusher. Go from there.
I love that you said that, because now I'm going to keep that in the back of my head. I really will, because sometimes I'll even get into the mode, Paul. I'm not going to lie to you. It's like, I think we talk about Fernando too much. I think we're talking about Kirk Cousins too much. Is he going to start? Is he not going to start? I get in that mode myself because, we do this all day long. So I think that's a great piece of advice. You can never talk about the quarterback too much.
Yeah, and I mean, from my perspective, it's the most important position in all of team sports, and especially here on this continent. I mean, we know what's going on in the World Cup right now and what happened over the weekend there, which kind of a downer on consecutive days. But when it comes to the Raiders and drafting a franchise quarterback, and it's about the future health of the franchise, not the immediacy, because, as we've said, this team's not going to compete for a Super Bowl right away. And, stranger things have happened. We know that. But, play the slow roll for now and as Clint Kubiak said himself numerous times, it's going to reveal itself in training camp. And then we just kind of take that and we kind of go from there. But to me, that's storyline number one. The other thing that people are talking to me about and asking about too is something that's kind of, I think it's in the back of people's minds, but it's one of those things you don't really want to talk about, is the whole Max Crosby situation. Obviously, he's all in again. The Raiders are all in with him. But, it's the NFL, not for long, right? And if something were to change, how's everybody going to react? How is he going to react to what had just happened, or fans kind of turning, or things that were said, or whatever? I'm not trying to stir anything up by any stretch, but to just kind of whistle past the graveyard, that's doing a disservice as well. You should at least pay attention to what a different storyline is, and that's storyline number two. Other than that, I mean, you can – It's a potpourri, really. It's a cornucopia of story ideas, whether it's looking at the rebuilt secondary or like EA told me on the podcast, those guys up in the middle, which is really kind of an underserved and underrated kind of group of guys, especially with the base defense changing to a 3-4. I mean, that's huge, and not a lot of people are talking about it. And I think that's going to, again, to quote Clint Kubiak, it will all reveal itself in training camp anyway.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Again, Paul Gutierrez, Paul G, dropping knowledge on us here on RaiderNation Radio 920. That's that rough. As a matter of fact, Ari, I want you to put on the window there. You can never talk about the quarterback too much. Put that on the window there in the studio. I'm telling you, anytime we pick up gems, man, I'm not ashamed. I don't mind taking knowledge from someone else and making sure I keep that in my mind, man. That's how we are a community around here, right? Community thoughts is what we have. Yeah. We talked yesterday, Paul, a lot about Ashton Genty. Jeremy Fowler, you know him very well from ESPN. He's got his top 10 list that he does every year, and Ashton obviously didn't make the top 10 for running backs. I think he definitely has the potential to do that based off what he did last year, and now knowing he's in a better scheme with better coaches around him. How big do you think of a role, an important role, Ashton Genty is going to be able to play this year under Clint Kubiak?
Yeah, like we've talked about before, let's put in the tape of the Seahawks last year that, won the Super Bowl, and, had a two-headed rushing attack. But yet there was no doubt as to who the number one back was, the bell cow was. And you just you take that and you apply it to what the personnel is with the Raiders, and you figure it out. And there's no doubt. Again, I say this over and over and over again, but as the advice was given to me, you can never talk about the running back enough either. The guy was a 25-yard pickup away. He was one broken tackle away from a 1,000-yard rushing season. And I know they had an extra game and this, that, and the other. But when you're talking about a guy that was just pummeled behind the line of scrimmage and still was able to churn out that kind of yards, now with a better scheme, a reimagined offensive line, because they've done some tweaks here and there. And with the threat of a passing attack this year, he can only be better, right? And as long as he stays healthy, and you've seen the pictures we talked about last time we were on the phone, was just how much more jacked he is this year. And as someone in the organization told me, well, that's great, just as long as he doesn't lose any of that speed. So, right. He's again, another huge storyline. I mean, there's literally, you can go through every wave of position groups. So, yep, that's a storyline. That's a storyline. That's a storyline. Because at the end of the day, that's really what a football team is.
No doubt, no doubt. That's why I said that at the start of the show. Like, I picked 3 storylines, but there's so many. Yeah. I could have got greedy and made 7, 8, 9, or 10 if I wanted to, but I only came up with 3. Our guy Will just hit us on the text line. He said, linebackers, show and prove. And, they upgraded that position. Quay Walker, Nakobe Dean. What do you think about that addition? Not only just really good linebackers, but they're also youthful. And obviously we know Nakobe Dean has had some injury history. He's got to stay healthy, but that's a new revamped position group. What do you think about those linebackers?
As long as they're healthy and as long as they're available, for the season, keep seeking missiles. I mean, it is really impressive what they're able to do. And again, I feel like I keep repeating myself because we haven't had a lot to really uncover here in the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks or so, right? But what's most impressive about those guys and the free agents that they brought in is they're under 30, they're already battle-tested, and, Q, they already know how to win. Usually in free agency, you're getting guys that other teams don't want, and you're like, you know what, that guy's undervalued. He's a little underpaid. Let's bring him in. No, these are guys that are entering the prime or already in the prime of their careers, and they already know how to win. That doesn't really happen a lot when you bring in young guys who've already won at every level, whether it was in college or winning Super Bowls or what have you. Plus, they're just fast and physical, and that's something to be excited about. Again, with the asterisk, so long as they're available and healthy, because as Lincoln Kennedy tells us all the time, you can't really do much for the club when you're in the tub.
Right. I laugh so much when Lincoln says that, but he's spot on, right? I mean, that's the greatest line because it's truthful. You can't make the club in the tub. There's nothing you could do for the Raiders on the sideline if you're in street clothes. It just is not going to do anything for you. And I'm glad you brought up Lincoln because one of my big storylines is the offensive line. How important is it going to be for the Raiders to identify their starting 5 just so they, or at least who they believe is going to be the starting 5, so they can start to gel and learn this new blocking scheme?
Oh, it's huge. And that really, if you're talking X's and O's, you're talking inside baseball, literally about this football team, that actually is probably the most important, aside from the quarterback. I mean, quarterback and offensive line are going to go hand in hand, literally. But if you don't have an offensive line that can protect and or open holes for anybody, ball game, that's it. And really, that's where it starts and ends. So that, to me, is probably the most important if you're just going inside baseball here, right? And I don't know how many football fans really want to do that. Because you like the glitter and the quarterback and the receiver and the running back. But, yeah, I mean, it all really starts with those guys. So we've seen combinations that have been out there in the 3 OTA practices we saw plus the 2 days of mandatory minicamp. So we've seen what they think thus far. Again, it's going to – I keep going back to this. We're going to see a lot more in training camp, or we're going to see. And it's not simply, and again, this goes without saying, but it's important to always say, I think, especially when it comes to offensive line play, is it's not simply who's your best right guard, who's your best left guard, who's your best right tackle. It's what is your best line as a group, who works best with each other. And that is the most important part. That way you can then have the plug-and-play guys when somebody goes down, which inevitably is going to happen in a football season. So you're looking for the best group that works together, not necessarily your best right guard, your best left guard, your best right tackle. You're looking for guys that work the best together, if that makes sense.
No, it does. It makes sense. You're spot on about that, and that's why that's something I'm really focusing on, and hopefully they're able to come up with who they believe the starting five is going to be as soon as possible so they can start to put that together and see who works out the best with each other. Again, Paul Gutierrez, Raiders.com with us here at RaiderNation Radio 920. Well, we'll close out with this. The World Cup has been fantastic. I'm not a huge soccer fan. I'm not going to lie to you, but, man, I've been glued. While I was on vacation, I watched Team USA play, and it was a damn replay. It wasn't even the real game. I thought it was the real thing, so I was all messed up. But that's how locked in I've been. It's been great. It was a fantastic match earlier today with Argentina. But what have you thought about the overall product that we've seen so far with the World Cup?
Yeah, it's really fun to just kind of lock in and just watch the games. And soccer, they call it the beautiful game for a reason, and it's much more fun in person. When I was at the LA Times 25 years ago, I was the LA Galaxy beat writer. I covered Chivas USA. I went to Guadalajara for Chivas USA training camp for stories. And soccer is just fun to cover. And what I like about it was there's a clock. And when the clock's over, the game's over. I know they always add extra time and this, that, and the other. But soccer is just really, really cool. I have not covered it on a World Cup level, but I covered a couple of MLS cups and a lot of international friendlies, especially when it comes to Mexico and the United States. So, again, this is when I'm like, wait a minute, Landon Donovan's old now and has new hair? Alexi Lalas is hated? Well, these guys were beloved when I was covering the Galaxy back in the day.
Right.
So it's fun, and that's when I'm like, well, that's just another sign that I've been doing this a long, long time. Because I remember when Kobe Jones was the first Kobe in L.A. That Kobe was the dude, right? C-O-B-I.
Yes.
That's how long. That's where my soccer knowledge goes, Q.
That is so funny. I completely forgot that name until you mentioned it right now. Like, man, wow, that's a blast from the past right there. Yeah, man, you've lived, man. You've done some living, man. You've gone some places. You've seen some things, to say the least. So there's nothing wrong with that. That's awesome, man. Always dropping knowledge on us here, Unnecessary Roughness. Well, what are you working on, man? I know it's a few weeks that we have before training camp gets going, but what do you got in the pressure cooker right now?
Yeah, you know what? I was going to work on a Kobe Jones takeout and the Galaxy and Landon. No.
Yes.
Just going to kind of jump into some soccer, a little UNLV basketball. No, for Raiders stuff, I mean, right now it's kind of been a dead period and just kind of gearing up. I know there's no such thing as an offseason anymore, but we've got I think since we last spoke, a new podcast dropped, and it's the voice of the Raiders, Jason Horowitz. J-Rock and I broke down the offensive side of the ball. So that's out on Raiders.com right now. Matter of fact, that gives me a reminder to go ahead and tweet that out and put it on social media. So we talked for about 15 minutes or so, just kind of breaking down the offensive side of the ball, and we'll go from there. So it's, just kind of waiting forward. And here's the thing, is like with these storylines, I'm kind of intrigued now. I almost want to do like not top three storylines, but under the radar storylines, which I think number one might be the kicking competition here, because I'm a big fan of the Tokyo Toe story. And maybe that might be my number one under the radar storyline, the Tokyo Toes battle to try to make an NFL team after teaching himself how to kick, watching YouTube videos, because he went to a Raider-Ram game on Monday Night Football just out of curiosity back in 2018.
See, I should have hit you up with a show question before we even started the show, because that's a great question right there. And, it's funny that you bring up the Tokyo Toe. The last day of mandatory minicamp that we were there, we saw him kicking and connecting. I mean, I was pleasantly surprised by the way he was connecting with a lot of confidence. There really could be a big competition there with him and Matt Gay.
Well, what's interesting about that was I think you and I were walking off at the same time, and we saw it, and it was like full on 11 on 11 and a little bit of a rush. They weren't jumping up trying to block it or talking trash or anything, but dude, he was drilling from 60, and they were going into the pool. He was going into the drink from 60. And that's the one thing, is that in college, he very rarely, if ever, was going past 45 to 50. So, again, the preseason's going to tell a lot. Training camp's going to reveal all. But that, to me, is the number one under the radar storyline to watch for training camp. So there you go. Maybe now you've encouraged me and inspired me to write a little something else, Q.
There you go. Hey, that's how we work together, man. That's how we come together like that. That's awesome. Fantastic stuff, man. Keep up the great work. Upon further reviews, been great. All the guests. And now I know that when I see Jason Horowitz and talk to him, I can call him J-Rock. That's his hip-hop name.
J-Rock. It's like the Beastie Boys. Adam Horowitz was Ad-Rock. I said Jason is J-Rock. He doesn't really like it, so I keep doing it even more.
Oh, perfect. I'm in. That's it. He's going to be J-Rock the whole way through now. There it is. Fantastic stuff, my man. Great. Thanks so much. I appreciate you.
Welcome back again. Congratulations. Now I'm chasing you to get that plaque, man. Here we go.
There you go. There you go. I'll pass it on to you. I'm not mad at that at all. Great stuff right there. Paul Gutierrez, Raiders.com. What a fantastic way to twist the question, huh? That was good. That Paul's very creative, right? Obviously, he's got that sharp creative mind. I love how he twisted that and said under the radar storylines because, again, the Fernando Mendoza, when are you going to see him? That's the easy one. That's the layup, right? That's the layup in the layup line before the game even starts. So that's wow. That is a fantastic one. So, hey, feel free to chime in on whichever direction you want to go. If you want to hit us with a under-the-radar storyline, hit us with that. If you want to hit us with a storyline that you're really focusing on, or three of them like I focus in on, hit us with that as well. Let us know, 702-365-9200. We do definitely appreciate that. Just when Will just said Kobe Jones was the truth, the first bruh I saw playing, which made me want to play. Good call, Paul G. Yeah, man, I forgot about Kobe Jones. No joke. I forgot about him until Paul brought him up. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. That dude was a stud. So, yeah, you're right. That was a good call there by Paul bringing up Kobe Jones right there. And, I will pass this along. It's totally not on the subject, but I'm a little disappointed when I see it. The Aces just put out a tweet. Roster update. The Aces have waived Kennedy Carter. In addition, they have signed Justine Pissett. So, Kennedy Carter no longer a member of the Aces. The only reason I bring that up is because I've been calling that for about a week or two. They've been saying she was sick and they weren't letting her play, and then she finally started playing and she was getting a couple minutes here and there, and I kept saying as I was going to multiple games, I was like, they're about a second away from waiving her. And so I just saw the update and I had to pass it along to Natalie, our boss, and she said, I know, I just saw it in my head. I thought Q nailed it. So I was all over that one. There ain't too many times that I nail a thought like that and I have it just like spot on. But I had that one spot on for a while. I was disappointed because she's a hell of a player. But I know that things that haven't seemed like they've been right when it comes to Kennedy Carter and the Aces. But keep that feedback coming, man. 702-365-9200. We definitely appreciate Paul G for his time. And definitely check out Upon Further Review with EA. Check it out with J-Rock, Jason Horowitz, the voice of the Silver and Black. And there is no doubt next time that Jason's on the show, we're going to call him J-Rock. That we're going to call him that all the time. As a matter of fact, Ari's going to have some kind of fantastic intro for him and everything. We're going to line that bad boy up. There is no doubt about that. So I started it off with the three biggest storylines that I'll be following the closest for the Raiders this season. I said, how quickly can the Raiders offensive line come together? Who are the starting five? How quickly can they identify them? What does the competition in the secondary look like? And, of course, the number one, the easy one, when do the Raiders pass the sticks on to Fernando Mendoza? But definitely want to hear from you. Let us know your thoughts. And like I said, you could take the Paul G approach and go with the, under-the-radar storyline, like he said, the kicking competition between the Tokyo Toe and Matt Gay. Let us know your thoughts, 702-365-9200. It's RaiderNation Radio 920.
Lionel Messi, deflection there on the way through. And can they line something up here? Argentina. Oh, it's got in. It's 2-2. And who else? Lionel Messi, the savior for Argentina.
It's Unnecessary Roughness. Presented by Meineke, doing car care right. Here's your boy Q.
Looked like they were done until they weren't. Argentina was down 2-0. to Egypt, only to come back to win 3-2, and they get it done in like the last 11 minutes or so. I mean, it was just rapid fire. Bink, bink, bink. Obviously, you hear that goal right there from Messi, and I say it all the time. I'm not a big soccer head, but I've been pretty glued in on the World Cup just because, it means so much. You see the passion behind it, and, man, there's some fantastic athletes and soccer players out there that are just putting it all on the line. And when you see that loss, just like we saw that loss from Team USA to Belgium last night, you could just see the emotions pour out of not only the players, but the fans, kids, women, children, men, whatever the case may be. You see all the emotions run out. It is RaiderNation Radio 920, Unnecessary Roughness. We've been having the conversation as we go into hour number 2 of the show about your 3 biggest storylines that you'll be following the closest for the Raiders this upcoming season. I threw it out there about the offensive line. How quickly can they come together? How can they get their starting 5? Like, how fast can they get their starting 5? What does the competition in the secondary look like? And when do the Raiders pass the sticks on to Fernando Mendoza? We had Paul Gutierrez from Raiders.com on the show last hour. He joined us around 2:30. If you missed any of our conversation, you always go back to lvsportsnetwork.com. Check out the podcast version of not only the Morning Tailgate, JT the Brick, but this show as well. So it's a one-stop shop. Anything that you may have missed, you can always go back there and check it out. And right before we wrapped up with him, he said, I might go and do a little piece on, the the under the radar storylines, and he was talking about the kicking competition between the Tokyo Toe and Matt Gay, and I thought, wow, that's a hell of a topic as well. So if you want to go Paul G style and go under the radar storylines, feel free to do that as well. But just chime in on the show at 702-365-9200. That is the text line and the phone lines. Let's go out to the 916 at Sacramento, California. Talk to our guy Raider Greg. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Q, my brother, thank you for taking my call. Hope you had a great 4th of July and vacation, my brother. It's good to talk to you.
Yes, sir. It's great to hear from you. And, yeah, vacation was fantastic, my man.
That's good. That's good. You deserve it, brother. Hardest working guy in showbiz. I always say that. For me, the biggest storyline to me is the underrated storyline as well.
Okay.
And I look at it as that right guard spot on the offensive line. Because, I mean, if you look straight across, I would suspect just what I'm hearing so far, Colton at left, Spencer, Tyler, DJ Glaze seems to be stuck in that right tackle. Now, obviously, every position is up. But that right guard, and I thought about it even more when you and Paul brought up again about not making the club in the tub. And that made me think just of JPJ. You brought in Trey Zoom. We've heard Clint Kubiak talk very highly about Caleb Rogers, about him being one of the first guys in, about him being very receptive to coaching, being a hard worker. I mean, for him to come in, and he said that even when he first came to the team, one of the, when they were asking I think maybe I can't remember back, it was a while back, but somebody asked what are one of the things they were surprised about. And that was one of the things he talked about, Caleb Rogers, right? So I think it's a win-win because, one, I think JPJ, obviously he has a fan base. We all love JPJ, his makeup, the way he plays, the grit, the aggression, all the way almost through the whistle that he plays with. But at the same time, those injuries plague. So I think when you bring in a Trey Zoon, a guy, one of the top SEC pass blocking lineman over at tackle, but he played all 5 positions. And then with Caleb Rogers, who's someone he's talked about highly, it's a win-win because it's either going to push JPJ to take that next step to be what we need him to be one of those staples, those Colton Millers off the offensive line, or if Trey Zoon or Caleb Rogers, somebody like that wins the job, that's going to show how much work they've put in. So I think it's a win-win, and I think it's kind of not talked about, but I think it's the biggest story and the underrated story when it comes to that is who's going to step up and take that right guard position, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in training camp. God bless you, and God bless Raider Nation as always.
Hey, great call, man. Thanks so much for chiming in, and it's always good to hear from you as always. And yeah, man, I like where you went there. And, Trey Zoon is the guy that I identified as a day one starter. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be, but because he has that versatility, he comes from the SEC, and he's got plenty of burn under his belt, right, plenty of starts, I think that he's going to be a guy very valuable on game day because he could play multiple positions. So maybe he doesn't become a day one starter. That's just my gut feeling going into training camp. Now, everyone can't be playing, and everyone can't be a starter. So you're right. So you have a conversation when it comes to Trey Zoon. You have a conversation when it comes to Caleb Rogers. Obviously, JPJ is part of the conversation. Well, the math ain't mathin', right? The math ain't mathin'. And if you want to throw Charles Grant in there as competition with DJ Glaze, that's why we're talking about the O-line and saying, hey, how quickly can you identify who you believe will be the starting five? That doesn't necessarily mean that they're locked in just because I say, Q, Ari, JT, Vinny, Clay, and Vince are the starting five. Don't mean that's going to be what it's going to be, but that's what I just think it's going to be right now, right? That hey, man, it could always switch up. So that's where that competition is going to come in. And you're right. Clint Kubiak's talked highly about Caleb Rogers. He's also talked about Trey Zoon and his versatility. And, again, that's to me having that feather in the cap for Trey Zoon as a guy who stood up at the front of the podium when we got to speak with him and said, I think it was maybe Vinny, it might have been Case Kiefer, I'm not 100% sure. How confident are you confident that you could play all 5 positions? He, without hesitation, yes, sir. Yes, sir, I'm very confident I can play it at any position along that offensive line. Not saying that just because you're confident means that you can, but it's hard to go against a guy like that, right, that showed that versatility at Tech. He was a left tackle, and then they switched him to center. It's not like he was left tackle and switched to left guard. They moved him from left tackle to center because they needed to, and he was able to hold it down. So, I think that he's going to be one of those, that just, like I said, having that feather in the cap, having that opportunity to be able to be that Swiss Army knife along that offensive line. Every offensive line coach is going to want that. So, how does that put that that competition? How does that affect the competition that they'll have at training camp when it comes to the offensive line? And I don't think enough people are talking about Caleb Rogers. I know ESPN, they put out they were ranking the rosters, and they had the Raiders ranked at 27th, I believe. I know JT was talking about that on the show yesterday. Really good conversation. Again, lvsportsnetwork.com if you missed it. But one of the guys that they were talking about, just one of those guys that you have to watch out for, was Caleb Rogers. I don't remember exactly what was said about him, but it was one of those like, hey, by the way, don't forget Caleb Rogers is there. I do think that is a factor that probably not enough people are actually talking about. I'll tell you exactly what they said right now about they said they were talking about the biggest strength, biggest weakness, and the X factor, and they said the biggest weakness was the interior of the defensive line. This is Mike Clay, who we've had on the show many times. He said the good news is the Raiders have some continuity up front, returning all three interior linemen play at least 50% of their defensive snaps. The bad news is that none of the three interior defensive line, I should say, Adam Butler, Jonah Laulu, and Thomas Booker were especially good last season, combining for 12 tackles for loss and 5 sacks. So they talk about Benito Jones, Tonka Hemingway, and J.J. Pegues. So X factor, the right side of the offensive line. That's where I was going with that. This season needs to be about the development of Mendoza, figuring out who can contribute to a contender in the future. Now, this is where I was confused by this. This was Seth Walder that said this was the X factor. He said that the right side could be a weakness in pass protection if Jackson Powers-Johnson and DJ Glaze are starting. Powers-Johnson was a 90.9% pass block win rate at guard, which is below average. And Glaze's 85.8% pass block win rate was just the 6th percentile among tackles last season. But if they can improve their pass protection, then the Raiders' offensive line will be in good shape to support Mendoza. But then the non-starter to know, this was from Aaron Schatz. He said, guard Caleb Rogers. The Raiders' offensive line was a problem last season, but Rogers was not. He was primarily a tackle at Tech before moving inside for the Raiders, and in 6 starts, he had a 90.7 pass block win rate. So I paused right there because he said that Caleb Rogers had a 90.7% pass block win rate, and that was good according to Schatz. But according to Walder, JPJ had a 90.9 pass block win rate at guard, which is below average. So I don't know which is true. Right? That's when, to me, Ari, the math don't math on that one. Right? That's when, I mean, if JPJ had a 90.9 and Caleb Rogers had a 90.7, I'm never going to claim to be the smartest dude in the world. But to me, it seems like the 90.9 would be better than the 90.7.
Yeah. I mean, if Q's questioning your math, you got some problems.
I'm trying to tell you.
No, you're right. I mean, the only thing I could think of is if he means like the potential, like they'd expect the expectation. But yeah, numbers are numbers. To your point, that's crazy.
Right. And then he says the Raiders are moving to more of a zone running game in 2026 that would seem to fit Rogers' skill set. He'll compete with Meredith and Spencer Burford for the starting left guard spot and provide the Raiders with good depth in case injuries hit the line. So he's talking about him at the left guard position. So, again, there's a lot of speculation. And just look at the calendar if you wonder why there's so much speculation. Just look at the calendar. It's July 7th.
Fan
right?
rain.
Exactly. There's going to be a lot of speculation. There's going to be a lot of things that are going to be thrown out there, and someone's going to hope that it sticks when you throw it up against the wall, right? And, oh, hey, I saw this one coming, and okay, sounds good.
You know what I haven't heard from in a little bit is that guy that keeps saying Mendoza is a bust. Just wanted to throw that in there. As far as people that
Twitter?
throw things out there and hope that it sticks. Yeah.
What is that guy?
NFL.
NFL first round mock draft and former. Yeah, I saw him and I made the fatal mistake. And every once in a while I do this, man. I always get mad at myself. I go down that rabbit hole of engaging. Right? There's sometimes, when they say you just need to walk away.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to walk away. But there's so many times that I try to actually give someone the time of day and try to have an intelligent conversation, realizing that person does not desire an intelligent conversation.
Right. Yeah.
It's like having, a girlfriend that needs to be an ex-girlfriend, and all she wants to do is fight, and you're trying to reason with her, and she's like, no, it's not what I want to do. I want to fight.
Seems like every time we talk, it's just a fight.
Right.
I don't get anywhere. Yeah.
Exactly. Hey, how you doing today? You know how I'm doing? Like, damn, all I said was how you doing?
Right. You want to try to, you think this is what the conversation is for, not so much to change someone's mind, but to show perspective. But, yeah, these people they have no interest in anything.
So there's a lot right now. So I tell you to take it, all the things that you read on Twitter or social media or online. There's certain, obviously, publications that I respect a whole hell of a lot better than others, and some that are just trying to come up with anything. Some that are just like, all right, let's see, what can we create today? I know. Ari's going to get traded for Q. What?
We don't want that. I hope they got a lot of other things in return for that exchange. There was, while we're on the subject of ridiculous things, there's a Max Crosby video out there where it's totally AI. Like, I don't even know what it is, and they're trying to, and I won't name the name, but it's one of those hacks that put it out there.
Of course.
I'll just leave it at that.
It's always something. It's always something. But, yeah, I mean, look, the good thing is, as much as it's funny and we joke about it, there's only a few weeks before training camp gets started, and there'll actually be some real stuff to talk about that's not just, AI generated and all this like what can I put into the interwebs to come up with something creative and see, how much traction I can get on it today.
Frustrated, yeah.
Exactly. But I do like what Raider Greg brought up. I thought that was a fantastic call about the right guard position and really, the left guard position, the right guard position, the right tackle. I mean, that's pretty easy that all three of those, in my opinion, are really up for grabs. Obviously, Colton Miller is locked in at the left tackle, and Tyler Linderbaum is locked in at the center spot. But if I'm any of those guys that play any of those other positions, whether I started already for the Raiders or I'm just a newcomer to the team, I'm going full throttle, man. I'm going full throttle because I know that if I have the spot, it's not guaranteed to be for long. And if I don't have the spot, I can go get it. I just got to go work my tail off. So that'll be something, that offensive line, to Raider Greg and Sacramento's point, that'll be something that everyone is paying attention to for sure. Diego in Arizona said, hey, Q, my 3 storylines for the Raiders currently are who is on the opposite side of Stokes, how many undrafted free agents make the 53-man roster, and how much better is the O-line with the new coaching and players. Thanks for everything that you and Ari do. Thank you, Diego, for that. The undrafted free agents, how many make the roster? That'll be, interesting, right? I mean, and that was something that we talked about in the draft process when we had Kirk Morrison on the show. He said, before they even got to the draft, I remember one of those conversations that we had with John Spytek. He said, hey, find out how much room is on the roster for our UDFAs. All right, because there's a lot of dudes that might not get drafted that can go out there and ball. And I'm not saying there's going to be a whole roster full of undrafted free agents. I wouldn't be foolish like that. But, there's a guy or two that could definitely show up and show out. And I know that there's a couple guys that are on the radar that we hear about every once in a while that will have that opportunity. The good thing about it is, as far as I'm concerned now, I know that, your status matters. When you got drafted mattered. I mean, first-round pick, not worried about that guy making the squad or anything. But I always look at it like if you're in camp and you have an invite and you're working your tail off, you're in that locker room, you have a chance to make the team. Yeah, you might have to work a little harder, but sometimes that goes for all of us, right? Sometimes we look at our own situations like, man, I think I got to work a little harder than that dude to make sure I solidify my spot. But you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. That's okay. I'm okay with that. If you have a problem with working hard, you probably shouldn't be in that locker room, right? And then when you work that hard to make the spot, guess what? How much harder are you going to work to hold on to it? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I say it all the time. You just have to have an opportunity. When I got the first opportunity ever to be on sports radio, not to make it about me, but this is what I know. I had a boss, David Smoke. He said, hey, I want you to join this guy's show. I don't have any money for you. I don't know if you could do an hour of the show, if you could do 2 hours, whatever you think you could hang with. I was like, what you mean what I can hang with? He said, well, if you can hang with them for 2 hours, that's how long the show is, then you can do 2 hours. If you can only hang with 1 hour, then you can only do 1 hour. I looked at my man with all due respect and said, can I hang with them? Can they hang with me? Just give me an opportunity. Just let me kick the door open, right? I don't need no money. Just give me the chance. Just give me the playing field. And as long as I'm on the field, I'll do my job. Well, that was 2012. It's 2026. Right? I think I was able to hang with those guys, right? I think we did all right. So that's all you need. You just need an opportunity. That's it. And these guys that are undrafted free agents, you know what they ask? Just give me an opportunity, coach. Just get me on the field. And it's hard in training camp because, the ones are running with the ones, the twos are running with the twos. So you're on the field, and, I joked about this around mandatory minicamp and OTAs. We saw Fernando Mendoza running with technically the threes. So it's like, oh, man, he's out there with some UDFAs, some guys that didn't get drafted, some guys that are, late-round picks. They might not make the team. But guess what? Everyone's out there competing. And, oh, by the way, they're out there competing with the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback that was selected number 1 overall. So they're feeling good about who they're on the field with. It's all about opportunity. Yes, you could probably go and sit down with John Spytek and Clint Kubiak right now, and if they had the truth serum, he said, hey, how many of the 53 men do you feel comfortable about right now? They could probably give you a good 45. I'll just go ahead and say it's about 45, right? There'll be a couple guys that'll pop in and catch everyone's attention in training camps like, oh, man, hold on. I didn't expect that. Like, they have a good idea what their roster is going to look like right now. Like, we'd be lying to each other if we said that they didn't, if it was just strictly just getting to training camp. But whatever you do, you just go out there and put your best foot forward, whether you make the Raiders or someone else gets some film. Maybe you go out there and bust your ass in a preseason game and a team that you play, maybe the Cardinals. It's like, hey, man, that Ari wasn't as bad as Q says he is. Q says he ain't got an athletic bone in his body, but, man, he looked pretty damn good. So maybe he'll go out there and ball out. So there's so much opportunity as far as I'm concerned. You just have to go out there and put your best foot forward, and that's what training camp's going to be for. That's why the rookies arrive a handful of days before the veterans arrive, and they start to, put all the work in. And they've already put a lot of work in, right? They put in all the work during rookie camp, during OTAs, mandatory minicamp. As Clint Kubiak told us, you can't lose the momentum that they've already gained. Whatever they've picked up already, you can't start over from scratch, start over from the beginning when they get back for training camp. They've got to have that retention. They've got to be able to hold on to what they've already learned and they've already established. And, okay, how do you move forward? 702-365-9200. Got this text from our guy Barry. He said, hey, Q, aloha, welcome back. Barry Henderson. Hey, man, congratulations on your award. My storyline, Raiders' Brock Bowers leads the NFL in pass receptions. With an improving offensive line, that is no surprise. So Barry and Henderson, thanks for the text. Appreciate that. So he's calling his shot right now. Brock Bowers leading the NFL in pass receptions. And I'm not going to go against that, because what we saw last year in Seattle with Jackson Smith and Jigba, and I know he's a wide receiver, I get that, but we know that Brock Bowers is the number one target. JSN was the number one target, and I'm not going to lie to you. When they traded DK Metcalf to Pittsburgh, I thought, well, what are they going to do now? I know they have JSN, but that's one dude. At least they had a guy that could be a big-time possession receiver, a playmaker, but then they had a big-time playmaker in DK, where he was never going to be a guy, in my opinion, that got 85 catches, went well over 1,000 yards. I thought he was more of a big-time playmaker. He was the guy that's going to get that 40-yard touchdown catch, right? He's going to be that guy because of his speed, his size, his strength, that he was just going to make that big play. But they traded him away. So I thought, okay, well, let's see how they put this all together. And then all of a sudden, JSN became the best wide receiver in the league, right? And just signed a big-time, massive contract. So, that's the thing. Clint Kubiak has a creative offensive mind in between the ears, and we know that. It's been on display no matter where he was. I mean, hell, for what, a month in New Orleans, he had the Saints looking like the greatest show on turf, right? It looked like he had the Saints offense looking like it was the best thing ever. We were talking about Clint Kubiak as a potential head coach when he was in New Orleans. And then there was a bunch of injuries, and then they fell off, and and he ended up in Seattle as the OC, and great for the Raiders that he did. If that Saints team had continued on that trajectory that they were on early in that season, he wouldn't have been around for Seattle to take and go to the Super Bowl with. He wouldn't have been there available for the Raiders to go and hire and lead them into this next chapter of Raider football. So luckily, the Saints fell off, and Seattle picked him up, and obviously with the strength of that defense, he was able to do what he needs to do offensively, and they look great. So now the Raiders get the benefit from his sharp, creative offensive mind. So a guy like Brock Bowers, to your point, he easily could end up being the guy that leads the NFL in pass receptions. We talked about it yesterday when we talked about Ashton Genty and how big he could be for this Raiders offense. If it truly is the Genty and Bowers show, both those guys could be upper echelon when it comes to the numbers that they put up this year. And if they put up some big numbers, the Raiders offense is going to have to be on the field for a lengthy amount of time. And if they're on the field for a lengthy amount of time, well, great things happen because the defense is getting rest, and they're having sustained drives. They're probably scoring more touchdowns than field goals. And guys like Bowers and Genty and Tucker and Naylor and guys like that are going to eat. It's just that simple. They're going to eat. So that's a hell of a storyline, and I wouldn't go against it and say, oh, there's no way that's going to happen, right? I had someone hit me up and say, I think that the Raiders could be a top 10 defense, and I know who was that? Marcus Johnson from Tape Don't Lie. I know he's a regular guest on the Morning Tailgate. I know he said that the other day that he feels like, and I don't want to quote him because I'll quote him incorrectly, but to the point of he thought that there was a couple things that needed to go right for the Raiders. They could have a top 10 defense. I don't want to go that far. I really don't, because there's a lot of new, including what we heard from Eric Allen when he was on Upon Further Review a couple weeks ago with Paul Gutierrez. You don't know what that interior defensive line is going to be. I know that Robbie Leonard's going to try to run a defense that is attacking, similar to Brian Flores, what he's doing in Minnesota as their defensive coordinator. It's going to be very important what the interior of that defensive line does. Max Crosby is that dude. But as I've said before, who's going to complement Max? You know, are the space eaters up front, are they going to be able to keep the linebackers behind them clean? How does the adjustment to the 3-4 defense, whether it's a true 3-4, a hybrid 3-4, right, a variation of the defense, right, whatever you want to call it, it's definitely going to look different than what we saw last year, right? How is that going to come together? The secondary is going to have to come together to make the defense really strong, right? The line and the corners have to work together. What about the safety play in the back end? So there's a lot that goes into it. I don't want to go that far and say I think that the Raiders are going to have a top 10 defense. I know that they have a lot of talent, but how quickly can it come together? That might be the storyline that you're looking at when you're talking about the defense, not necessarily where they're going to rank, but how quickly can they complement each other and come together. How quickly can you identify that true Robin to Max Crosby's Batman? I mean, we've been trying to identify that guy for how many years? How many different dudes has Max Crosby gone through to be that true Robin? And I don't believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe he's had a true Robin since Unique Ngakoue. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think that there's been a true Robin. Ngakoue was in 1 year. Then he was out. Chandler Jones. Enough said. Right? We talked about Malcolm Kuntz. Right? He was a Robin, I think, for a nice stretch in 2023. But it was half a season. And it was really good. It was really good. And I still remember this conversation. Right? Who do you think is going to be that dude that surprises and leads the defense? And I thought Malcolm Kuntz was going to be that dude. Then he tears his ACL. Right? Tyree Wilson was drafted to be that true Robin to Max's Batman. Nobody has truly stepped up and been that guy consistently, except for the 1 year that Unique Ngakoue was on the Raiders' defensive line across from Max. And those two dudes pushed the hell out of each other. You want to talk about a training camp that was fun to watch? Watching those two alphas go at it, right? And not like going at it with each other like they were fighting, but just competing. And anytime Unique did anything, Max wanted to do it. And every time Max did something, Unique wanted to do it. Like that was how complimentary those two dudes were. And it seemed like when Unique got a sack, here comes Max. He's coming around the corner. Here he comes. Like they always tried to one-up each other. And it's very similar to what I say to Kirk Morrison all the time when he joins the show, him and Thomas Howard. When they were the linebackers together, when they had the law firm of Morrison and Howard and Morrison, whatever you wanted to call it, one got an interception, the other one. Here comes the other one. One got a forced fumble. Here comes the other one. Someone got a TFL. Here comes the other one. Like those dudes were always competing to be that dude and go make that big-time play. That's how I looked at Unique Ngakoue and Max Crosby. And I don't believe, again, correct me if I'm wrong. Feel free to chime in. 702-365-9200. That's the text line. It's the phone line. Hit us on Twitter if you want, at RE Producers, at your boy Q254, at RNR 920 AM. Whatever way, send us a smoke signal. I don't give a damn. Whatever way you got to get a hold of us, feel free to do so and let me know. I don't think I'm incorrect, but Max Crosby, in my opinion, has not had a true Robin since he had Unique Ngakoue for that 1 year here in Las Vegas. Coming up next, we'll talk to our guy, the General, John McClain. Always great to catch up with him. Keep that feedback coming at 702-365-9200. Hit us on the text line. It's RaiderNation Radio 920.
Who's going to be that guy for the Raiders, too, by the way? That third down guy that you can really rely on. That's why I'm saying, could it be like a Jack Bash? Could it be, obviously Brock Bowers is your number one target, but then who's that next target after that?
Near side for Bash, caught at the Texans 40, angling 30, and dropped at the Houston 22-yard line. Gino lobbed it over his shoulder in stride, and Bash did the rest. It's a pickup of 36 yards.
It's time for our weekly visit with the Hall of Famer, John McClain. Right now on Unnecessary Roughness with your boy Q.
As we come into the sounds of our guy Kirk Morrison talking about Jack Bash, the second-year wide receiver out of TCU by way of LSU, and what he can do this year. Only had 20 catches and limited time on the field last season, but that was one of the highlights of his season last year was against the Houston Texans. You heard Jason Horowitz, or J-Rock as we're calling him apparently, on the call right there. It is Unnecessary Roughness here on RaiderNation Radio 920. And the General, he joins us now on the phone lines, John McClain. And, John, thanks so much for your time. Always appreciate you. Hope you and yours had a great, safe 4th of July weekend. Before we get into anything NFL, I understand that you're watching the World Cup. You're pretty locked in. How have you thought the action's been so far?
Q, I have been a World Cup fan, my wife and I, for 20 years. And the only time we got fired up about soccer is because it's such a big deal worldwide. And so we wanted about 30 years ago, think, well, what's the big deal? Let's start paying attention. We didn't understand anything about the game other than the ball had to be in the net. So we've liked it a lot. And then we got caught up in Liverpool and the Premier League in the UK, the best league in the world. And so here in the U.S., Mexico, and Canada, it's made it even more exciting. And even though the U.S. embarrassed itself last night, they weren't going to get beyond Spain in the next round anyway. You just didn't expect them to get killed like that, 4-1. 2-1, 3-2 would have been okay. But it sure has been exciting, and I love the way people from around the world are praising the United States, and the hospitality of the people has been fantastic.
Let's try to get John back. Let's his phone is starting to make a few little sounds here. Those gremlins is what we like to call them. Ari will try to reconnect with John, and we'll get him because I want to make sure that we're able to hear the General and what he has to say here on RaiderNation Radio 920, Unnecessary Roughness. So we threw the question out there about the storylines, the top 3 storylines that you'll be looking forward to when it comes to the Raiders this season, right? That could be training camp. That could be right now. That could obviously be the season as well. So go ahead and chime in on that on the text line. Let us know your thoughts. We'll get to that after we wrap up with John McClain. But I want to make sure that we're able to hear him clearly. So I don't know if he was in the car. Sometimes these things happen. As good as our cell phones are, sometimes they just don't really work out the way that we want them to. But I do believe that John is back now. John, how you doing? Can we hear you a little bit better?
I guess I could hear myself fine. So I love the fact that people around the world have praised America, the fans, the stadium, the cities, everything. It's been great for the United States, and anything that's great for the United States, I'm all for. Now, love watching the greatest players, and I'm assuming you did too. Are you keeping up with the World Cup as carefully as I am?
Oh, yeah. I got so caught up on it, John. Even when I was on vacation, I was watching Team USA. I didn't realize it was a replay, and I was locked in like it was brand new, and I was –
That guy sounds like you.
Yeah, exactly.
after a few pina coladas on the beach, huh?
Yeah, a couple Mai Tais. You know, Hawaii's known for their Mai Tais, so yeah.
Well, I think it's incredible. I'm so glad we got it. I hope the next one, I think, is in 2038. I hope we get it, and I hope I'm still alive to experience it.
I'm right there with you. It has been fantastic, and I'm not a big soccer head, but I will lock in on the World Cup as I'm checking out right now some World Cup action on my TV. It is Unnecessary Roughness here on RaiderNation Radio 920. John McClain is with us. And, John, when it comes to the NFL, right, American football, we've been talking about storylines for the Raiders this year. When you start getting closer and closer to training camp for the Texans and just the NFL in general, how do you kind of classify what your storylines that you're looking for are going to be? What would they be for Houston this year?
It's all about the Texans' offense. Texans have a great defense. I see a lot of national people picking the Texans in the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, why? What have they done? They've never even been beyond the divisional round of the playoffs. They're coming off an embarrassing loss at New England in which C.J. Stroud was awful. So why would you pick them to win the Super Bowl? Now, I thought maybe people were doing it thinking, okay, if they don't win, nobody remember it. If they do, I can say, oh, I picked them. I will never pick the Texans in the Super Bowl until they prove to me they can get beyond the divisional round. And it's all about their offense. They're almost take the defense for granted because it's so good, and they've got to improve their running game. So it's got to benefit C.J. Stroud. So that's what everybody's talking about. Stroud bouncing back from his bad playoff performance, which is something he should do. He's been in 4 playoff games before and played well. He's won a playoff game in each of his first 3 seasons. I think there's only one other team that's done that in the last 3 years.
Oh, did we lose him? now, is he there? Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
so, oh, there you are. There you are.
Really good Kirk Cousins starting quarterback. And you have a new head coach, and you have Tom Brady. It looks like more involved. And so anytime you have that new coach and a number 1 pick at quarterback, fans, it's natural for them to get fired up. So everybody's got storylines. The ones that it's negative, and you know this from the past, is when you don't have a quarterback. That's the worst thing that you can have going into training camp is when you know that you don't have the quarterback you want, and you're going to have to wait till the draft. Could it be free agency? And I feel bad for those teams because I've been through that so many times in my career, and this is my 50th year of covering the NFL.
You know, and it's funny because, you know, Raider Nation's been through it as well, not having a true quarterback ever since the Raiders sat down Derek Carr. Has been a rotating door there at the quarterback position. But what does your gut feeling tell you about Kirk Cousins and Fernando Mendoza? Like, when do you think that Clint Kubiak and company are going to want to pass the baton on to Fernando Mendoza and let it be his team?
Well, nobody's got a clue about that, including Clint Kubiak. He doesn't know. He hadn't seen Mendoza play. He hadn't seen him get hit. You know, you see it tape on college, but he's got a lot to see. I think the Raiders are so fortunate to have Cousins. He may go the whole season. You know, you look back, Tom Brady didn't play. Tony Romo, Aaron Rodgers. There's so many quarterbacks throughout history who didn't play right away. Patrick Mahomes played 1 game, the last one. So that's what they could do there. And they've got a really good quarterback in Cousins who doesn't look like he's walking away physically anytime soon. Now, maybe he wants to keep adding to try to overtake whoever it is. It's Stafford. Overtake Stafford for the most money in history. But I think it's great that they have him. And I don't see Cousins playing badly if he's healthy. Now, he may get hit. He may get hurt. And that's when Mendoza comes in. And as long as there's no interference from Mark Davis, because a lot of times it's the owners that put the pressure on the general manager and the coach. You know, we're selling tickets for this kid. We're paying him a lot of money. Let's see what he can do. Hopefully Mark Davis will stay out of that. And it looks like that's what he's doing. And that's what a good owner does, stays out of it.
Agreed, 100%. It does feel like MD is letting Spytech and company handle that side of things and sitting back and watching the operation, and that's normally how he's been operating. So when C.J. Stroud took over, was it just a matter of there's no doubt he's going to play because there's nobody behind him?
No. They went – Davis Mills was a returning starter. We all knew Stroud was going to start because the team was terrible. Yeah. But they did not make it official until right before the start of the season. They didn't have a Kirk Cousins. And they had been terrible too, but they didn't have a Cousins. So Stroud was named, and he started as a rookie, and everything was great. He had a great season. They won the division, had a playoff game, and everything's been good ever since. But, you know, a lot of teams have got quarterback controversies like Cleveland.
Yeah.
You know, they want to name their quarterback, whether it's Sanders or Watson. And I got a feeling their quarterback is somewhere in college, and he's going to be the starter next year, and Sanders and Watson will be gone no matter what they do. Because every time Shadur Sanders, not his fault, but he is a lightning rod for controversy because of his family and his fans up there. And you don't want that for a young quarterback. You need no distractions. He doesn't need his brother or his daddy getting involved. You know, leave the kid alone. Let him be the starter. Deshaun Watson's not going back to Cleveland. It's the last year of his contract. But if he plays well and they win 7 or 8 games, Q, and then you got to give him a new deal. You got to give him $240 million guaranteed? Of
Right.
course not.
No.
So they've got to look at Shadur Sanders and see if he can be the guy, or they got to prepare for him to be gone and Watson is gone, and they find the next quarterback in the draft.
John McClain is with us here on RaiderNation Radio 920. Necessary Roughness. Did want to scatter shoot a couple NFL questions with you when it comes to the Terrion Arnold situation. Former first-round pick, no longer on the Lions because of off-the-field situations. How do you see this one playing out? When do you think teams are just going to kind of slow play this and collect information?
First of all, the dumbassery of football players just never ceases to amaze me. Number one, when they're committing crimes and they're orchestrating it on Zoom, and you make millions of dollars, how stupid can you be? But he'll be on a team. They'll take anybody. There's people who kicked a woman in the head on camera still playing. There's a guy who kicked a pregnant woman on camera still playing. There have been people who killed people drunk driving. When Henry Ruggs, when he gets out of the slammer, if he can still run and they think he can catch, somebody will say he deserves a second chance. The odds are he's not going to be what he was coming out of Alabama, but I'll guarantee you there's a team out there, they're checking him, they're thinking about it because teams are so desperate. And Arnold will end up in somebody's lineup probably starting because he was a good player. I admire the Lions for getting rid of him.
Yeah, no, I do as well, and I was a big fan of his coming out of Alabama. I thought he was a hell of a player, and I had never heard anything about him being, some kind of dude that makes some bad decisions like that.
No,
but
nobody heard anything.
Yeah, that was bad. That was really bad. So we had Jeremy Fowler on the show yesterday, and he was saying that he thinks some teams, they might bring him in for a workout, but kind of slow play what they do when it comes to Arnold. Well, if that was dumbassery enough, what about Brandon Ayuk and that situation with him?
Somebody, a former player, it might have been Jason McCourty on ESPN, said, turn your phone off. All the trouble he's getting in is what he's putting out on social media. Mm-hmm. Remember Damon is it Arnett or Arquette?
Yep, Arnett, I remember. Yep,
Damon
Arnett,
remember. Social media, flashing guns. How stupid is that? Mm-hmm. And so it drives teams crazy, drives agents crazy because these guys are losing money, but deep down they know somebody else is going to give them a chance because I don't know what you'd have to do to where everybody said they're not interested in you. Doesn't matter if you kill somebody, if you beat up a pregnant woman, you kick a woman on the ground, I guess gambling. That's it.
That's it. Sorsby found that out, right? And matter of fact, we'll close out with that. We haven't talked to you since the ruling came down. The NFL didn't have the supplemental draft. He's not playing in college or the NFL this year. What did you think about how that all played out?
I think ultimately is the best thing that happened. The NFL would not have the supplemental draft. He's not suing them. They've agreed not to punish him when he gets into the league like they could have. He needs to just disappear, work his tail off, work on his rehabilitation from the problem that he obviously has, and come back next year, pro day, not sure which pro day you go to, Tech, Cincinnati, and get him a good quarterback guru and work with that guy, watch tape, be ready to go. And because all these quarterbacks, Q, that we think are coming out who are going to be first-round picks, today, if you're going to go in the bottom of the first round, a lot of you stay in college and make more money. So we could make a list of 10 quarterbacks that have a chance to be first-round picks, and some of them are going to stay in school.
Yep.
So Sorsby still has a good chance to be a number one pick.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. And it's been, I don't know how many years in a row we keep hearing, hey, this next draft is going to be the quarterback draft. 2024 was, but it hasn't been that since. And so I know 2027 is supposed to be, John, but there's no guaranteeing. Guys can play well. They can get injured. They might not play well. I mean, there's so many circumstances. And somebody like a Fernando Mendoza that we weren't talking about at this time last year could end up playing the best and end up being the number one overall pick just like Mendoza was.
When Jaden Daniels left Arizona State for LSU, nobody's talking about him as a Heisman Trophy winner, just like Mendoza. So there's somebody out there. Some team has got a quarterback that's done a great job, and that guy's going to end up being a number one pick. I don't think maybe even the first overall pick. Because can you imagine if you'd been in Vegas and you'd put some money on a Fernando Mendoza from Cal being a Heisman Trophy winner and first overall pick, what kind of money you could have won?
Man, that's definitely some plus money for sure. Yeah, you could have really won some big money because nobody was talking about Fernando Mendoza at this stage of the game or going into the last season last year as he made that move to Indiana. Fantastic stuff as always, John. What are you working on, man? What should we be on the lookout for?
Well, we're showing our documentary, PVIL Stories Separate but Equal, next week. Our first viewing in Houston since our premiere. We've been going around the state of Texas. We continue to work on Dan Pastorini, former Oiler, Raider, Rams, and Eagles quarterback, who's got one of the most interesting stories in sports history. And we're wrapping one up on high school football, so we're staying busy. And we had a blast at our screening at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Nice. And that was saw a lot of people I know and you know.
Did you win? Did your team win in the softball game?
No. All our good players didn't show up. We had a bunch of old guys that I had to play. We got beat 23-4, 10-run rule, Oof. And then they gave us a couple of their players, and we only got beat 17-13. But we had a great time, and we're going to figure out the date in another couple of weeks, and I'm going to make sure you get it right this time.
Absolutely. I'll definitely be there next year. There's no doubt. I'll have to bring some players along with me, too. That's what I'll do. So we'll make it happen, John. Thanks so much for your time. Always appreciate you.
Q, it's my pleasure. Welcome back, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate you. John McClain right there, the general with us here on RaiderNation Radio 920. Man, you can't lose like that. Only getting 4 runs. He said I had a bunch of old guys that had to play. That's not okay. That's not okay.
Did you hit 4 runs last time, too?
Last time I played, yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. No, look, and you know me, I'm the most competitive dude in the room, so I know how angry I would have been if we were playing like that. So I'm gonna have to go ahead and pull out the bat, get into the cages, spend a whole year doing that, and doing a little something. Have to have my guy Vegas Jess make sure he's on point, ready to go. Only thing that's got to stop us is the weather. Last time we went. And Vegas Jess and Jason, we all made the move to Texas to go play, and it was going to be a hell of a game. And the only thing that stopped us was the damn weather. It was pouring. Like, I think it's still pouring right now. It was raining so bad. We couldn't, man, we were inside playing softball. It was ridiculous. We might have knocked some stuff over in the condo we were staying in. I'm just saying, they say don't play with the ball in the house. We definitely were playing. I mean, we're throwing grounders to each other, right? We were all ready to go, man. So, yeah. We're gonna have to be on our A game and get ready for that one because I cannot let the general get beat like that. Not if I have something to say about it. I might not be able to do everything, but I ain't going out like that.
Battle
man.
for Vegas here.
There you go. That's what I need to do, man. Somebody needs to send my resume into the Battle for Vegas. The fine folks, right? Tell them I think Q should be part of the competition. They don't want me out there. They say, who in the hell is this dude out there and trying to play left field? We don't know this guy. Yeah, they don't want me out there. Go out there and make a fool of myself. But we'll have a good time. It'll all be good, like it always is. Hit us up, text line, phone line, all the same, 702-365-9200. We want to hear from you as we close out hour number 2 of the show. It's RaiderNation Radio 920.
Now back to Unnecessary Roughness with your boy Q. Presented by Meineke, doing car care right.
Just got a couple minutes left in hour number 2 of the show. Then we'll be going full throttle into hour number 3. Of course, we want to hear from you at 702-365-9200. Really have had a lot of good conversations about multiple different subjects, really. I mean, just kind of scatter shooting. We started things off talking about storylines. I came into it talking about the 3 biggest storylines that you'll be following the closest for the Raiders this season. This all comes from the Rankem series that we're doing on ESPN. We started things off with the top 5 NFL storylines. So I thought, I can make this, Raiders related and come up with 3. And then we had Paul Gutierrez from Raiders.com on the show in the first hour. And he's like, what about a under the radar storyline? And he brought up the kicking battle, the competition between the Tokyo Toe and Matt Gay, which I didn't think, to be honest with you, I didn't think it was a kicking competition until the last day of mandatory minicamp. Right, as Paul G pointed out, and again, if you missed any of that conversation, lvsportsnetwork.com, you can always find it. All of our podcasts from all of our shows are always right there. It's a one-stop shop. Tokyo Toe was drilling these kicks on the last day, we were walking back to the media room, and me and Paul were kind of slow walking. It's one thing to kind of get your hustle on when you're walking, and then there's another thing to kind of slow your roll a little bit. So we started to do that and started to see the Tokyo Toe drilling some 60-yard kicks like it was nothing. As Paul, pointed out earlier in the show, he was kicking them into the pool area. Now, I mean, it's one thing to kick them and be consistently drilling them when you're in practice and there's no pressure and you don't feel like someone's going to, take you out or is going to block it or whatever the case may be. You're in practice. It's different when the lights are bright. Obviously, Matt Gay's got plenty of experience, with Joey D, Joe DeCamillis, the special teams coordinator. But yeah, that's a battle that we'll see in training camp that I honestly didn't expect. And then we talked to Joey D after that, and he mentioned the competition himself between the Tokyo Toe and Matt Gay. So that's definitely a storyline that's flying under the radar. We hear from you as we kick off hour number 3. We'll do that next, and football right here on RaiderNation Radio 920.
2nd and 3. He's back to throw, eyeing the right, steps up into the pocket, over the middle. He's got the man streak into the end zone. Bowers at the 10, reaches the 5. Touchdown! He is back, baby! Brock Bowers, 27 yards over the middle, and the Raiders, with 1:52 to go, regain the lead.
It's Unnecessary Roughness. Presented by Meineke, doing car care right. Here's your boy Q.
And here we go, kicking off hour number 3 of the show. It is Unnecessary Roughness, RaiderNation Radio 920. We come into the sounds again of Jason Horowitz, a.k.a. J-Rock, on the Brock Bowers touchdown catch right there. He's back, and hopefully we hear a lot of that coming up in 2026. We threw the question out there about storylines, the 3 biggest storylines, or maybe you want to go with the under-the-radar storyline like our guy Paul G. You could do that as well, 702-365-9200. We will do football right in a hot minute, including one of the storylines that we've been talking about. But before we do that, let's go ahead and go out to the phone lines, talk to one of our favorites, Raider66. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Q, welcome back, man.
Thank you, my man. Appreciate you.
As I like to say after vacation, back to reality. It's nice when we had Max and Ngakwe there because, you remember the stories about them pushing each other, and you need teammates to do that. And it reminded me of the early 70s with the Oakland A's, that rotation they had. I mean, you had Catfish, he'd go out and he'd, give up like 3 runs or so, strike out 4 or 5, and then Vite would be up and he'd go, man, I'm going to strike out 9. And then Holtzman would come up next. He'd go, I'm going to throw a shutout. And then you got Blue Moon Odom. I mean, they just pushed each other to do better. And, well, we know how that turned out. And, Q, did you know that group of Oakland A's is the only non-Yankee team to win more than 2 straight World Series?
I did not know that. Nice. I learn something every day. So we need that counterbalance for Max. I mean, we've been trying for years. That's a storyline I think needs to get ironed out. And then you go back to 1981, and I'm going to use the F word, 49ers. They had a heck of a draft. They got 3 young defensive backs there, a kid by the name of Ronnie Lott, Eric Wright, Carlton Williamson. And those guys blended with the old man of the group, Dwight Hicks. They became Dwight Hicks and the Hot Licks. And they led that team to their first Super Bowl championship in 1981. By the way, the Raiders already had won 2 Super Bowls by then. But if this young secondary can come together and mesh with the Raiders, they could be a big step towards a quick turnaround, quicker than everybody expects. And then, of course, you got the offensive line. When the Raiders were great, they had a great offensive line. But these last few years, we've been going into the season with an unsettled and untried offensive line. We need to get that settled right away, and I think that would be a big storyline. We can do that and settle it down and get Genty some yards and get the passing game going. Those are my 3. Hope you have a good day. Go Raiders, and thanks for the time. All right, thank you. Great stuff. Great stuff. Really good call. And yeah, man, I mean, that secondary, that was number 2 on my 3 biggest storylines. If that secondary can come together, there's a reason why they went and drafted 4 dudes. Like, we think of the secondary, we think of just corners, but there's safeties involved in this as well. I mentioned Jesse Merrick earlier. We'll hear from him in just a little bit, talking about that secondary and what he's looking at as he was a guest on the morning tailgate this morning alongside Vinny Bonsignor. Make sure you tune into them tomorrow morning as well, as they'll be back in action 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. But that's definitely something that I'm paying attention to, because when you go out and make that kind of moves and those kind of investments and those that many players in a position group, corners and safeties. Obviously, you know that it's a room that needs to be revamped, and that's exactly what they did. Would love to find a true running buddy for Max Crosby. Really would. And again, that's why I was talking about Unique and Ngakoue. They pushed each other, and I saw it. I witnessed it firsthand. That was the same summer, same training camp that we all realized that, man, Max Crosby looks fast. I can't tell you how many times I came back to the show and said, damn, Max is fast. And I had no idea why. It's like, man, he just looks like, I don't know if Unique's pushing him so much that he's got to be even quicker, but then that's when we found out that he had spent, before he got to training camp, he had spent all the time at rehab and making sure he, got rid of the drinking issue, and so he wasn't carrying that alcohol weight. So he was a lot fresher. He was ready to go. We had no idea he was bettering himself. That was going to make him even better on the field. And obviously, these years later, we see all the great work that he's put in, the results of that. But, I can't tell you all the people that I stood next to, from Paul to Vinny to Adam Hill and others right there at the training camp. It was like, damn, these two dudes are going at it. And like I said, it was no disrespect to either one of them. They just were, like you said, 66, they were pushing each other to be great. And that year, I felt like Max and Unique were a great 1-2 punch. And I don't think that the Raiders have had that 1-2 punch since then. That's something that they need to get back to. Somebody needs to stand up and be that person. Thanks so much for the call. Definitely appreciate you. Keep that feedback coming to 702-365-9200. One of the big storylines that not only Raider Nation is going to be talking about, but also just anyone in general, if you care about football action, Fernando Mendoza, when he's going to get into the mix. He was number one on my three biggest storylines for obvious reasons. Like I said, it doesn't take a Raider fan to want to know when Fernando Mendoza's going to get into the action. As a matter of fact, on Unsportsmanlike, on ESPN Radio, they were talking about it as they were going through their storylines as well. Of course, Fernando Mendoza came up with them as well.
Guys, when are we going to see Fernando Mendoza play football at the NFL level? I know the Raiders don't need to rush him because they have Kirk O'Chains. They've got Kirk Cousins in the mix. But what version of Kirk Cousins exists now? And if it's not great, how early could they turn to Fernando Mendoza? With the division being really brutal, maybe it doesn't matter what version you get of Kirk Cousins. You let Fernando Mendoza sit for an entire year, learn, absorb, get the mental and physical reps in practice, and get ready for next season. But that's something I'm really going to be monitoring because of what he did last season at Indiana. I wonder when we'll see Fernando Mendoza actually get out there under center for the Raiders.
I'll say it very simply, CC. The less snaps he plays, the better his career, I think, will be.
Yeah.
You brought Cousins in to buy yourself time for Mendoza.
Yeah, I'm going to say week 14. They have a week 13 bye. I'm going to say week 14 for the Raiders is when the Fernando Mendoza era starts for the guys in the silver and black.
Love it.
If Kirk Cousins isn't playing well, though, the fan base is excited about the shiny new toy. Could that influence a decision there? I'm just saying, this is something I'm going to be monitoring all season.
The most important thing for the Raiders is not snaps for Fernando Mendoza. It's to make sure that Mendoza doesn't get the career knocked out of him in his rookie season when the team is not ready to win.
Round of applause. No, that's the point. That's how you develop quarterbacks. Thank you, CC.
Unsportsmanlike on ESPN Radio. That's Michelle Smallman, Evan Cohen, and the resident Super Bowl champ, Chris Canty, right there. And Canty said what I said early on, that, okay, week 14. And I've said it many times here on this show, I don't know if they're going to be able to hold out that long. That is a very long time before he gets into action. And, I mean, look, if they're winning, I've said it before, and I know this is kind of a debate that me and Vinny have back and forth. I know we don't see eye to eye on this. And I know a lot of Raider Nation doesn't see eye to eye on this. If the Raiders are winning, I don't give a damn when Fernando gets in the game. If the Raiders are winning under Kirk Cousins, so be it. Get your win on, right? All I care about is wins. I know the end-all, be-all is going to be Fernando Mendoza at some stage of the game. I remember when I was on vacation, there was a clip that Brandy Flores put out there on our Raider Nation Radio 920 social media. She's been doing a fantastic job with that. And it was Vinny on the morning tailgate talking about, okay, so you win 9 games with Kirk Cousins, and then you only win 7 games with Fernando Mendoza. Like, what's the difference? And I get that. But one, if Fernando Mendoza is playing, there's no guaranteeing that you're going to win 7. Hell, there's no guaranteeing that you're going to win 9 with Kirk Cousins, right? I mean, if you win 9 games, that's a hell of a season. I think Raider Nation would take that and should take that, right? The Raiders have not been worth the salt the last few years. If they can find a way to muster 9 wins, go get them, right? This is not just the Las Vegas Mendozas. This is the Las Vegas Raiders. They need to figure out how to win as a team, not as just one individual player. It all matters in the grand scheme of things how this team plays. But I can't go into a season and say, well, if Cousins is the quarterback, they're going to win 9 games. If Mendoza, they're going to win 7. Like, if it was that easy, then by all means, right, play Mendoza. But you don't know that. There's so many circumstances that are going to play a role in that. So hey, look, the coaching staff, like Kurt Morrison says, it will reveal itself. Clint Kubiak says it all the time. It will reveal itself. When time, is right for Mendoza, whether that's week 1 or week 13 or week 14, that's when he'll be in action. But that, to my point, is going to be a number one storyline, one of the top storylines across the league, not just amongst Raider Nation, but everyone wants to know when the number one overall pick is in the action. There's a reason why. Make no mistake, if you need further evidence, there's a reason why ESPN picked up the second preseason game for the Raiders, right? Normally, there's 3 broadcasts that you'll hear Jason Horowitz and Kirk Morrison and JT the Brick and Eric Allen. You'll hear them on the call, TV and radio side of things. There's only 2 this year. You know why there's only 2? Because ESPN has decided that they're going to take the second game. That's their game. So when we're all in Houston at the joint practice August 18th and the game is on August 20th, you won't hear Jason Horowitz on the call. You won't hear Kirk Morrison on the call. You'll hear the ESPN crew. You know why? Is it because they want to see Kirk Cousins? No. It's because they're anticipating seeing Fernando Mendoza, game number 2. Think about it. Think about the preseason schedule. How often does anyone really play in game 1? They'll play like a couple snaps here and there. What's the game that everyone anticipates? Normally it used to be what? When they had 4 games, it would be game number 3. That would be and I put in air quotes, dress rehearsal. Well, guess what the dress rehearsal is now? Game number 2. Think there's a coincidence that ESPN got game number 2? No. I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I've never been the smartest guy in the world. If you gave me your IQ, I wouldn't be the smartest guy in the world. I could tell you that, right? That's easy math. That's why they're doing that, because everyone wants to know when they're going to see the bright, shiny toy that is Fernando Mendoza. All of Raider Nation wants to know. Ari wants to know. I want to know. And the whole NFL world wants to know. Indiana fans want to know. Cal fans want to know. Right? Analysts all across the country want to know. Everyone wants to know. Right? And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Right? I mean, he is highly talked about. Now, a year ago, Cam Ward was not. And I don't know if that's a Tennessee Titan thing. I don't know if that was just a whatever. But Cam Ward wasn't talked about like Fernando Mendoza is. I guess because he didn't go win the Heisman Trophy. He didn't win a national championship. So he wasn't as highly touted as Fernando Mendoza is. But there's so much conversation about this young man that it's going to be obvious that that's the storyline that everyone's going to be talking about. And even when I brought it up on the show last night on ESPN, I was working with Mia O'Brien, our good friend, who's been a guest on this show before, and she was like, oh, man, you had to bring a Raiders conversation. She said, I cover the Jaguars. I didn't bring the Jaguars into it. I said, yeah, but you don't have a number 1 overall pick that you're covering. Trevor Lawrence is number 1 overall pick a long time ago. There's not a number 1 overall pick. She's like, oh, that's right. That's a great point. That's everyone's going to be talking about that dude. It's just kind of natural when you're in the position that Fernando Mendoza is in. And, look, I don't mind it. Everyone always complains about people aren't talking about the Raiders enough. Guess what? The Raiders are in the conversation all the time. I'm on vacation. I turn on ESPN, and you know what I see? I see Dan Graziano talking about the Raiders. I'm on vacation. I have people coming up to me, hey, what about the Raiders? Brudda, what about the, that's just what it is. People find out, oh, you're in Vegas. Hey, man, what about those Raiders? Like, that's what it is. There's a good energy. I don't care why they're talking about the Raiders. I'm glad that they're talking about the Raiders. There's a reason why when I was a young dude and I was in music radio, Q97 in Fresno, I used to talk about the Raiders all the time because I couldn't understand why they never had conversation. There was never any conversation about the Raiders. They were the last team that was talked about on SportsCenter. They were hardly talked about on the news in the Bay, right? I mean, I'm there in Fresno. They were hardly ever talked about then. I used to get in trouble. There's people that listen to this show that know my old program director, Tommy Del Rio. He wrote me up twice in the same meeting. One was because all I did is talk about the Raiders on the damn radio. He said, we're not a sports station. We're a hip-hop station. I said, man, the Raiders go hand in hand with hip-hop. What you talking about? Because, I'm smarter than the rest of the room. I'm smarter than the boss. What does the boss know? Now, I get it. But that's just what it is. Now there's plenty of conversation. There's plenty of outlets. Now the national media is talking about the Raiders, and it's not all bad. Like a lot of times people say, the only time they talk about the Raiders is when it's bad. Not necessarily. Now there's a lot of questions and a lot of, curious what they're doing over there. I don't have a problem with that. I think that's all right. So that's Unsportsmanlike on ESPN Radio talking about Fernando Mendoza. Then we had Jeremy Fowler on the show yesterday. Really good stuff. And one of the things that I asked him about was the fact that there is a plan, right, when it comes to Cousins, and the plan when it comes to Mendoza. Obviously, again, part of that storyline, but how great is that the Raiders have options?
Yeah, it's huge. It's a situation where I like how they're handling it, to be honest. We've seen young quarterbacks, whether they're ready or not, just given the job in the spring. It's interesting, though. It can go a lot of ways. You give them the job in the spring, and then they're not ready, or you try to create a competition and they're not getting enough reps in camp, which I think was the case with Trevor Lawrence back in Jacksonville 5 years ago when you knew he was going to be the guy and they kind of dangled that job a little bit. So I don't know if any way to do it is perfect, but the fact you have a guy like Kirk Cousins that as a baseline can perform, move the ball with that offense, and you can get off to a good start with them, it just gives them some leeway. And I do feel like the Raiders, some people there are relieved that they don't have to rush Fernando Mendoza out there and that he has to be the guy day one of camp. Now, they'll leave some wiggle room to see what he does, and if he makes a move, they're not going to keep him off the field. You play the best guy. But whether he plays week 1, week 4, week 13, they seem pretty steadfast in wanting to just bring this along to where he plays when he's ready, doesn't have to be rushed, and they know they're going to be a better team than they were a year ago. I think that's the important thing. So there's just more optimism there.
There you go. Jeremy Fowler from ESPN, again, talking about how huge it is that the Raiders do have options. And that's where I'm at. I just think it's great to have options. There's so many times in life that we don't have options or we don't feel like we have options. Like, this is the only thing that we're going to be able to do. We don't get to pick our own path, A, B, C, or D, but the Raiders actually have that opportunity with the quarterback position. And, look, there's honestly 3 quarterbacks that they have, to pick from as far as what the pecking order is, right? Who's going to be the starting quarterback, who's going to be the backup quarterback, and who's even going to be the third string. And there's a chance that possibly Fernando Mendoza starts as the third string quarterback. That is not out of the conversation. As silly as that might sound, it's not out of the conversation. So I think that it's great. It's like in basketball, being, at multiple opportunities. You catch the ball without dribbling, you can do anything. You can dribble, you can shoot, right? You can pass. Right? There's all kind of different things you could do. It's good to not be backed into the corner and forced to do, this is all that you can do. Right? Just like we talked to John McClain. When C.J. Stroud was drafted, there was no doubt. I know they didn't name him starting quarterback right away. There was no doubt he was going to be a starting quarterback. Bryce Young, same thing. And look what they did in Carolina. Let that be the perfect example. They rolled Bryce Young out there. He clearly wasn't ready to go. They had to sit him down. They brought in Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton was the guy. And, when Andy Dalton got his first start with the Panthers, what did he do? Came to Vegas and beat the brakes off the Raiders. It's just how it is. But, obviously, what happened? They eventually went back to Bryce Young, and he's a lot better now than he was when they sat him down. So there's so many different options that the Raiders have. That, to me, I think that's an advantage as far as I'm concerned. But we do want to hear from you at 702-365-9200. Not even really just talking about Mendoza and Cousins. That's just one of the big storylines. We've been asking the question about the top 3 storylines in your mind when it comes to the Raiders this year, not just training camp, but this upcoming season that you're going to be paying attention to the most. Obviously, Fernando Mendoza is at the top of most people's mind. But let's go out to the phone lines, talk to our guy, Bernard. Bernard, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Q, welcome back, man. You had me all messed up, man. I missed the shows, man.
My bad, man. My bad. Yeah, I had to take a break, man. I had to get a quick break.
Even before you left, you was having I think you had some of your shows was shorter, and I was like, man, what's going on? There's something wrong with my app, but
nah.
And then I was like, okay, there's something going on with the station, got different programming. But welcome back, man. Glad you got a little R&R, man.
Thank you, appreciate it, man. It was great. Yeah, it's good to be back too.
Hey, Q, my thing, you're gonna love this, man. Special teams this year, they're gonna have a kickoff or a punt return. They're going to have a kickoff before I'm calling it now. 17 games, man. They got to get one, Q.
I'm telling you.
Get one. And I think the defense, they really got a chance to be, I'm going to say top 12. The reason I'm thinking, because I think they're going to really have complementary offense this year. You know what I mean? They're not going to be giving a whole bunch of short fields, I don't think. You know, I don't think they're going to turn the ball over as much as they did last year. And so that's why I think the defense has a chance to be, you know, a lot better. They were good last year, but they just, I believe, against the run is where they struggled the most. But then again, they was on the field so much, and they had a lot of short. Well, they ranked really low in points, you know, points per game, and that's really the whole ball game, right? No matter how you do against the run and the pass, if you get no points. And that all correlates to them having a lot of short fields last year. So I think that's going to be a big improvement. And, Q, I remember when you had Genty's, I think it was his personal trainer or something on before he got drafted. And that dude was just raving about how great of a receiver Genty was. I think he was like, man, he could have been a top, you know, receiver if he wanted to.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, he had 5 touchdowns, I believe, receiving, and then, you know, in 5. So I think he might have about 15 touchdowns next year because I think he's going to, in the red zone, I believe he's going to get used better, and I'm really looking forward to him having a better year all around. And one more quick thing. I have a bet with one of my buddies like every year. He's a Buffalo Bills fan, right? So we would bet like head-to-head. You know, then we stopped betting if you know, the Raiders played them head-to-head because then, you know, the Bills started getting too good. So that was like an automatic loss last year, you know, every year. So last year, he was like, I bet Genty don't get 1,000 yards, you know, before the season started. I said, man, bet. You know, we usually bet like a case of beer. I said, man, he had to have 1,000 yards by, by week 13. So I'm sweating, Q. You getting out to the last game. I'm like, man, 975 yards, man. I'm like, God dang. So I lost again.
Right.
But it ain't going to happen this year. So I'm going to see if he make that bet with me. But again, Q, welcome back. I like the countdown for the first Sunday game, and things going to look a lot brighter this year. All the Raider fans know that. So, man, keep up the good work, man, and congratulations, too, on your Sportscaster of the Year, man. Good job. Keep up the good work.
Will do, man. Thanks so much. Appreciate you. Yeah, it means a lot to me to be able to take home that hardware. That's something that's pretty special. So thanks a lot. And it's only because, you know, fine folks like you and everyone else is chiming in on the show and tunes in on the daily and is looking for the show when it's not here, right? And yeah, right before I went on vacation, JT was on vacation, so I slid into that spot. Ari was on vacation before that, so we had other people producing. And it's this time of year. It's hard to get everybody to still be on at this time because everyone at some point needs to get a little bit of vacation, knowing that the training camp's coming up, and once that happens, like there ain't no turning back. There's no vacation time then, so you got to go the rest of the year. So we always have to go through a little bit of struggle at this time of year to fill all these shows out. But yeah, man, that's why we had a little back and forth. But Lord willing, I should be here each and every day until next year. Until next year, of course, we'll have a couple scheduled days off here and there on national holidays and stuff like that. But for the most part, it should be full throttle another year until it's time to go on vacation and make my trip back to the 808 as I do every single year. But thanks so much for that. And, hey, man, I'm right there with you. Let the Raiders have a kickoff return touchdown. Let this be the year. Joe DeCamillis, if you could work any magic, please work that magic. It's been way too long. When I tell people how long it's been since the Raiders have had a kickoff return touchdown, when I tell them Jacoby Ford was the last dude to do it, they can't believe it, first of all. I'm trying to tell you. They had a punt return touchdown for Dwayne Harris when everyone said no, 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 until they all yelled yes, 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 yes. There at the Oakland Coliseum, Gruden on the sideline, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like everyone thought that was a terrible mistake until you took it to the house. But there ain't been no kickoff return touchdown, man. And this team has gone way too long without that element, and they need to have that not just once, but they need to have that weapon back there, that guy that teams think about it before they kick it off to him. I don't know if I want to, tee this guy up because he could take one to the house. Like, that's an element. Special teams is something that more times than not we usually talk about when something goes bad. Instead of talking about when it goes bad, we need to talk about it as a weapon and as an advantage to this team. That's what they need to find a way to come up with, man. Thanks so much for that call. Really good stuff. Let's go ahead and talk to our guy, 13-4 Mike. He's calling his shot early. Welcome to the show, my man. What's on your mind?
Hey, Q. Great to talk to you. I like that kick return caller. Let's go. I was the one who sat with you at Silver Sevens, man. I can't wait to get another shot. My take is on the quarterbacks is I love Kirk. I love both the guys, obviously. First of all, let's win, okay? Let's win, baby.
Yes.
What I'm thinking is I don't want to sit Mendoza for 14 weeks or 13 weeks and then find out he was a superstar all along. I'm thinking let's go to him and say, hey, look, we're going to play you. We're going to play both quarterbacks, and that's what we're going to do. And if one of you lets down a little bit, we want you to be – I think Mendoza's got to be headstrong and say, look, you're not ready. We're starting to win. We're going to play Kirk a little more. But let's get him out there and see what we got. I don't want to wait 13, 14 weeks, be 2-11, and then go, here you go. Like, let's see what we got. Let's play him a quarter a game or a half a game and try to make it where they're mentally – and I believe these two guys, just from what I know about them, can do that. And that's what I'm thinking. I don't want to sit him for 13 weeks.
Okay. Hey, thanks for the call, 13-4, Mike. I definitely appreciate that. And that's the thing. Like I said, that I didn't think that they was going to get into action until the bye week, which is week 13, and then obviously coming out of that week 14. And in my world, ideally, it's perfect. Home game, Arizona, Kansas City. That's how the last 5 games of the season play coming out of the bye week. But it's going to be difficult to do exactly what Mike said, what he doesn't want to do, sit him for 13 weeks. It's going to be so difficult to make that happen. So that's why everyone's going to be paying attention. It doesn't matter if you're rooting for the Raiders. Look, you think Bronco fans, Chiefs fans, Chargers fans aren't going to be paying attention to this as well? Right? I guarantee that the Chiefs are like, hey, man, we're getting the Raiders in week 4. Right? We're going to get Kirk Cousins. We know what to expect from Kirk Cousins, but right now they don't know what to expect from Fernando Mendoza. Yeah, they know he's a rookie. Yeah, they know he just won a Heisman and a national championship, but they don't know what he's going to be in the NFL because there's no film on him in the NFL. There's plenty of film on Kirk Cousins. You know what he's going to be. So I'm sure that they're happy that they're getting him in week 4, and the Chargers are happy that they could be getting him in week 2. And that's all if in fact he does start. That's obviously putting the cart way before the horse, because they got to get to training camp first. But still, I mean, if they just say Cousins plays the first 4 weeks of the season, the Chargers and the Chiefs are going to love the fact that they got him as opposed to Mendoza, because right now there's a big unknown with what Fernando Mendoza could bring to the table. And, and if you do get the rookie early on, they're going to be happy about that too. Right? Hey, it's a rookie. He hasn't taken his lumps in the NFL, so there's going to be some mistakes that he's going to make along the way. So there's a lot that is going to go into this. And that's why I think that with the Raiders being in the position that they're in, just to, sit back and take their time with this is an ideal type situation and make the decision that when they think it's right for them, not when it's right for me, not when it's right for Ari, or not when it's right for anybody else. When it's right for them, that's when they make that move. We make that move to hear from you. We'll do that next at 702-365-9200. Plus, we've got a flushing on the way. I'm just saying. And Ari's got some winning on the way.
Yeah, we'll start it off with a positive. The pair of tickets to see Martin Lawrence at Resorts World Theater on July 11th, by the way. I've been checking out some reruns of Martin in inspiration of this. It's been great.
Man.
You should do the same. On Netflix. Tickets
I saw him live last time he was here, brother.
Oh, big flex.
Front row.
Okay.
Front row, brother.
Did he get you involved? Does he get people involved at all or no?
Oh, he talked a little trash to the audience, but he didn't talk to us.
That's cool.
So.
That's good. Okay. Well, there you go.
He saw a teammate, and he was like, nah, he's cool.
There you
now,
go.
I will say real quick, I don't mean to stall this out. I will say we went to another comedy show in damn, I forget what casino it was in, but it was it's called the Big Black Comedy Show. And anyway, it's something that you can go to on like a Saturday night. It's like $25 to get in. Like it's not
theater at the Miracle Mile.
There you go. There you go. Boom. Good call. So anyway, but it's pretty funny, but we had real close seats then as well. And so we're sitting there, and the guy brought up, he said, hey, anybody have a personalized license plate? And I said, and I immediately thought of Cassie Soto. Remember Cassie Soto used to cover the Raiders, and a really good friend. She has a personalized license plate on her car. And I remember telling her when I first saw that, I was like, you don't want to have a personalized license plate, especially with your name. Especially with you being in the media, people will know that, oh, that's That's Cassie, and there's some crazy people out there. So when he said, does anyone have a personalized license plate, I said, no, that's how you get caught up. He immediately pointed at me and goes, Q's a drug dealer.
That's hilarious.
And then I had my Nike tech suit on. He's all, Q don't want a personalized license plate, and he's in a tech suit. Q sells drugs, so anyone who wants to get some drugs after the show, see Q. He'll be by the car without the personalized license plate in the tech suit. So, yeah. Anyway.
It's a great observation. I know it's not true, but that is hilarious.
It was funny. It was so funny. And then there was a cat that was sitting behind me named Reno, and he had asked some question about something. He asked some question to the audience, and Reno was like, oh, yeah. And he goes, okay, so we know this side of the room is the problems. Q's the drug dealer, and Reno's knows where the bodies are buried, or something like that. It was hilarious. But anyway,
funny.
that's so there you go. That's my comedy story. I'm
all right. So if you win these tickets, just don't wear a Nike tracksuit, I guess, or whatever else you got to do.
Right.
That's awesome. All right, well, so here we go. A pair of tickets to see Martin Lawrence at Resorts World Theater on July 11th. Tickets are available at AXS.com or right now with me, caller 9 at 702-365-9200. Must be a Nevada resident.
Boom, there it is right there. Winning's hit for you. Ari's waiting for you, so give him a call, and, of course, we'll hear from you. And we got a flushing that we got to do. We'll do it all next here on RaiderNation Radio 920.
Doing football right on Unnecessary Roughness. Brought to you by Meineke. Doing car care right.
They'll concede another. Lukaku on the loose ball scores. Romelu Lukaku. The exclamation point for Belgium.
It's time to flush it. Brought to you by Moonlight Plumbing.
Yeah, man. I say it all the time. Nobody is exempt. Nobody can get away from a flushing. A good flushing, of course, is brought to you by Moonlight Plumbing. We definitely appreciate you. Appreciate them in a major way. There's no job that's too big or too small for Moonlight Plumbing. You can check them out online, moonlightplumbing.vegas, and we'll get to our flushing in a hot minute. But before we do that here on Unnecessary Roughness, RaiderNation Radio 920, I do want to go out to the phone lines real quick, talk to our guy, Leo, Big Leo in the IE. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
What up, Q? Hey, brother. Welcome back. Welcome back, and congratulations, man.
Thank you, my man. Appreciate that. It's big time. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I was checking in, and I like the special teams comment because I can't believe, like, you said Jacoby Ford, and I have an autographed football of him. That's the last time we got a return touchdown. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But the whole quarterback thing, I think us as fans, we're overthinking it. We're at a point where we have the luxury.
Yep.
Sit our guy. If you look at most teams who draft number one, they don't have someone else there. We actually have the luxury to be patient with this kid. Let the coaching staff do what they do. And, I mean, you've heard the phrase before, right? If you got two quarterbacks, you got none. So this trying to start them both thing, like, no, I'm not with it. Let Kubiak and them build the kid up, when to decide. I mean, we're going to get to see him. I'm going to go to that preseason game just to get an eye on the kid as well. But, yeah, I mean, just give him time. Trust in the coaching process, and they'll let us know when Mendoza's ready,
I agree. I agree with that. And it's great to have options, isn't it?
Yeah. Like, when was the last time the Raiders had that kind of options at quarterback?
Exactly. That's where I'm at. And obviously, some will agree, some won't agree. But like you said, the coaches will let us all know, and it will reveal itself sooner rather than later. Man, thanks for the call. Appreciate you, Leo. It's good to hear from you.
I appreciate you, brother. Take it easy.
All right, my man. Appreciate that. And also, definitely appreciate the Mac. The Mac from way, way, way back. Haven't heard from him in a minute. Raider Mac, welcome to the show.
What's up, Q, man? Y'all had me panicking, man. You and Ari. I couldn't find y'all. I came back from vacation. I'm like, what the heck happened? I didn't say. And I'm like, oh, man, these dudes is gone. No, don't tell me they gone. And I'm checking all these Raiders. Man, I was going crazy, Q. I'm glad you back, man. I'm glad, Ari, because I did listen to JT, and I was like, okay, he's somewhere around. Then I went AI, and they said, oh, yeah, Q's still here. He's just on vacation. So,
there you go.
Hey, man, I'm glad y'all back. Hey, Q, you know me, the quarterback. Hey, this is my problem. We know what Kirk Cousins is. Kirk Cousins is at the end of his road. let the kids start. And I understand people ain't going to agree with what I'm saying, but there was a lot of people that didn't agree to get a quarterback neither. They was doing all this dancing and doing all this stuff for the last 5 years after Derek Carr left. Oh, don't do this, don't do this. But to me, let him play. We're not expecting to be the division champs, or they're not expecting a lot from us, because you saw they didn't put us on no national TV games or anything like that.
Right.
So get a kid a chance. I think the secondary needs some work on, and I think the O-line is going to be fine, because you got rid of Pete Carroll's son. Man, he was bad, because I was hearing stories that guys were meeting in the hotel lobbies and running over. I mean, the scheme that he put in was just horrible. And I don't think he got a job anywhere, so that tells a lot. But Q, I think you just let Mendoza play, and I understand, three guys like Mahomes and Rodgers, but they got history with quarterbacks, so we let them. They got history with their teams. Got history with. We don't. Let Mendoza start and go from there. And if not, either way, I'm gonna be at that first game, so it don't matter who plays. Just long, what they say, just win, baby, and that's it, Q. And I'm so happy you and Ari back, man. I was turning flips. I was like, man, these guys are back. I appreciate you, Q, man. You just don't know how much you guys mean to the Raider fan nation. When you gone, you see how it is. It's like that girlfriend. Hey, you was talking about her, and now she gone. You miss her. So, hey, Q, I'm glad you guys back, man, and let's go. I can't wait till the season start, man. It's almost here. Thanks.
There you go. There you
go, Ari, man. Good job.
Hey, appreciate you, Raider Mac. It's great to hear from you, man. It's been a minute. Yeah, trust and believe, if we go anywhere, man, unless something tragic happens, we'll definitely let everyone know before that happens. But, yeah, man, it's good to be back. We're glad to be rocking and rolling. And, yeah, getting closer and closer to the start of training camp, which means that the season is right around the corner. And, yeah, like you said, man, just win, baby. To me, that's what matters. But I know there's a lot of conversations. There's going to be a lot based around the quarterback position, when or when they don't play Fernando Mendoza. Definitely appreciate that. We'll get back to your calls and texts in a hot minute, but I do want to go ahead and give this proper flushing, because these are the type of things that need to happen. No one is exempt. No one can escape a flushing. I don't care who you are, and, of course, it's brought to you by our good friends at Moonlight Plumbing. You can give them a call if you want at 702-355-3938, or check them out like I would, moonlightplumbing.vegas. That's real easy, moonlightplumbing.vegas. And this flushing, I should say, comes to you, as you know, from the World Cup. As soon as we saw what happened with the U.S. men's national team, I had people hitting me up saying, Q, you know what to do tomorrow. I said, yeah, unfortunately I do. I didn't want to have to do it, but they lose to Belgium 4-1, and the headline on ESPN.com, this was the headline right after they lost. It's up there right now. U.S. men's national team World Cup dream crushed by Belgium in round of 16. Now, look, I appreciate everything that they did. I thought that it was a magical ride. I had people on game night last night telling me, it wasn't a magical ride. They beat a bunch of countries that weren't very good, and look at the competition. It was just okay, but I thought it was a great ride. I was told before the World Cup ever started that the U.S. team wasn't very good. And I say it that I'm not a soccer head, but everyone told me, they're all right. They're not very good. They're not going to do too much, and they had a good draw. And they end up in the round of 16, and they had, I believe, the country pretty much united, right? Everyone was paying attention. I thought it was great that we were all focused in on what they were doing. As I mentioned, when I'm on vacation, I'm watching them in replay and didn't know I was watching them in replay. Like, that's how locked in I was on what they were doing. So I appreciate it, making it to the round of 16. So I don't want to make it seem like they did nothing. And I knew that Monday it was going to be tough, right? You're in the round of 16. And Belgium is really good. Every game is going to be a tough one. We saw a fantastic one today with Argentina that they squeaked out. But what bothers me is not that they lost. Not that they lost 4-1. It was the lack of energy. It was the basic mistakes. It was everything that they did to get to the round of 16 they didn't do in that game against Belgium. So for the final flush here, as we talk about the U.S. men's national team and the fact that they're out now, their ride is over. We'll watch the rest of the World Cup. They lose to Belgium 4-1. Again, I mentioned I was on ESPN game night immediately Like, as soon as I just knew we were going to have a great show, me and Mia O'Brien, right? The U.S. was going to win, or else it was going to be fantastic, like the one with Argentina and Egypt today. Like, it was going to be a thriller one way or the other. I just knew the show was going to be on fire. Instead, leading into the show, we're like, oh, man, this is over before it got started. I mean, look, Belgium was leading in 8 minutes in. And they lived for the first 18 minutes, it felt like, around the U.S. goal. It just seemed like everything went wrong for the U.S. So, I was on the show, and had to recap everything that happened or didn't happen. And I think that my guy, Hercules Gomez from ESPN FC, I think he summed it up in a way that most people felt as they watched the whole thing unfold.
I went out and I said this team could play against Belgium physically, that they would give them fits. Where we mistook our evaluation of this team was psychologically and mentally what they would do if they faced adversity. They weren't ready for the moment. They weren't ready for it in 2022, and we said they were still green. They weren't ready for it here. And it's not debutantes like Alex Freeman who weren't ready. It's the likes of a Christian Pulisic, a Serginho Dest. It's your most important players, a 39-year-old Tim Ream, if you will, your team captain. In the biggest of moments, you can't allow those players to have bad performances mentally. Because on the field, some things may not go your way. But from the opening minute that Matt Freese was tested, they were in a shell. And psychologically, they were already beaten. The U.S. men's national team beat themselves today. Belgium is a very good team and tactically took it to Mauricio Pochettino and his players.
So that was Hercules Gomez, really good on all things soccer. ESPN FC is where you can find him. Matter of fact, he'll be on my show this evening, kind of recapping everything going on with the World Cup and, what went wrong with the U.S. men's national team. But you hear his passion and his energy, and you can hear how, upset and disappointed he was by that performance. And I think that was really the overall sense. And I tell you, as we wrapped up the show last night, I said, I'm not even mad that they lost. I'm more disappointed. And you remember when you were a kid and your parents would say, oh, Q, I'm not mad at you. I'm more disappointed. It's like, no, actually, just be mad at me. We can get over it faster, right? You would never wanted your parents to be disappointed. You didn't mind if they were mad at you. These things are going to happen, Ari. But when your parents were disappointed in you, it felt like it hurt more.
Worst, yes. That's the worst feeling. I feel like I don't think anybody would disagree with that.
Right. So that's how I felt with the U.S. men's national team. Like, I applaud them again for getting to the round of 16. I just didn't like the way that they went out. If you're going to lose full throttle. Like, what do they say in football? If you're going to miss, like Robbie Leonard says, right? I don't mind if you blow a coverage. Just blow a coverage going fast, going full speed. And that's, if you watch the U.S. men's national team, that's what they did. They were aggressive. They attacked. They went full throttle. There was no, stones to the wall. Like, they weren't slowing down. And if you make a mistake, well, that's okay. I'd rather you make a mistake given everything you have. I'd rather you have a bad show on the radio, but you gave everything you had, and it just didn't work out. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes you just got to chalk it up to, hey, it was a bad day. But you know what? I gave all the effort in the world, as opposed to me and Ari coming in here and half-assing it for 3 hours and saying, man, that sucked. Glad that's over. I think I've done one show like that in the history of me doing shows, and that was with Harrison Sanford on ESPN. And it wasn't because of me. It was because he was not a very good co-host, and I couldn't wait till that show was over. I've never had that sense ever, that I couldn't wait till the show was over. That one show, my mom even texted me afterwards like, man, I'm glad that's over. That's how bad that was. I never want to ever have that feeling, and you never, as a professional, anything, want to have that feeling. So I know the U.S. men's national team feels terrible by the way things ended. I don't know if the moment was too big. I don't know if they looked at Belgium and were intimidated. I don't know what it was, but they just didn't play like they did on their journey to the round of 16. So unfortunately for them, everything comes to a close. So we had to flush that performance. But again, we at the same time, we still provide and appreciate the effort that they put in to get to the round of 16. That was brought to you by Moonlight Plumbing. From sun up till moonlight, affordable, dependable plumbing professionals serving Las Vegas since 2016. They mean business. No problem is too big or too small for Moonlight. Their services range from residential leaky faucet repair, water heater replacement, commercial plumbing system installs, full remodels. All you got to do is hit up Moonlight if you want. Get it done right at 702-355-3938. I always tell you online it's easy to hit them, moonlightplumbing.vegas. We do appreciate them. Again, moonlightplumbing.vegas.
Flush It is brought to you by Moonlight Plumbing. Affordable, dependable plumbing professionals serving Las Vegas since 2016. We mean business. Now back to Unnecessary Roughness with your boy Q on Raider Nation Radio 920 AM.
If you're looking for the key word of the day, you only have a couple minutes left to text it in. It's Energize, Energize. I've seen a couple on the text line say SE or Energize with SED. It's Energize. Energize. That is the word of the day for the New York City trip. Take the trip or take the cash. The cash is $3,000. We do want to hear from you as we wrap up the show. Rob in Oakland, hit us on the text line. My 3 under-the-radar storylines. 1, Spytech. I want to see how many of his draft picks make the final 53-man roster in order to gauge his early draft success. 2, Robbie Leonard. There's no top 5 or top 10 Raiders defense unless our freshly minted DC coaches and schemes well. If he doesn't do well, it won't be under the radar for too long. 3, Kuntz. The ACL injury may have robbed Max, who was robbing for the last couple seasons. Perhaps Max already has a running mate on the roster. That is Rob in Oakland. It's always great to hear from you. Thanks so much for that text. Let's go out to the phone lines real quick. Talk to the man who's been spamming us by way of Twitter. That's Money Mitch. Money Mitch, welcome to the show. What you got?
How you doing, Q? I don't want to talk about that. Ari, aloha. Thanks for taking my call. Love the show.
Sure.
I had to hang up earlier. I had my plumbing here. Now I found another problem. And for Mrs. Myers,
Moonlight Plumbing. Moonlight Plumbing. MoonlightPlumbing.com. Hit him up.
No, he's good on the side. Not that big taxes. Saving the money. Doing a favor. He's a good guy. Mrs. Myers, the Lakers signed Kevin Looney, so it's a good backup, decent backup. He comes to play at least every day. Defensive line, especially the young guys we drafted last year, our wide receivers, especially the freshmen and sophomores. I'm getting to USC mode here. You know what I mean? And of course, I'm gonna go with Mr. Dean. He should be the dean of USC. He got a great last name. He's pretty good at Philly. Let's see what he can do for us. Help front seven. It should be a pretty good season. I think in Dodgers, I think Dodgers are going to clinch it August 1st. Q, sorry about Twitter. I know what I'm doing. I tried to get it fixed. I don't know how to fix it. I didn't know I was hacked until I found out last week with D-Lo and Kenny Caraway. I think you're familiar with them. I'm a regular over there, too, at times. Mm-hmm. They're good guys. But anyway, love your show. I'll make up for another time with more information. And my dalliances with USC and Dodgers, of course.
All right. He said he had plumbing problems. Who wasn't thinking it? We were all thinking it. Again, shout out to MoonlightPlumbing.com. All right, MoonlightPlumbing.Vegas, I should say. Got a shout out to them for bringing us our Flushing segment. And, Mitch, you set us up too perfectly for that. I couldn't help myself, Ari.
He's the best. I heard him laughing in the background, so I
couldn't help. As soon as he said he had a plumbing issue, and I know he's in Jersey, so, he'll just go ahead and use his plumber on the under, the guy that's down the street that calls himself a plumber because he has a couple tools under the sink. But you really need some plumbing work. Don't trust that guy. Trust our guy. Moonlight Plumbing. Vegas. And Money Mitch, thanks for being a great sport, man. We do appreciate you. Make sure you tune into the morning tailgate. Vinny, Clay, they're all back in the mix coming up tomorrow here on RaiderNation Radio 920.